When the kindling human civilization handed every 30-year-old a flame seed, I drew colorless, the lowest quality there is. My name is Song Chi, and the whole of Gangwon City watched me draw it. Then the bronze token I had worn since birth finally woke, and the heavens market opened behind my bedroom wall. Alien races came through 19 space gates to pay me in purple engines and orange shields and mermaid tears. The trash draw was never my ceiling. It was my door. Real quick. Like the video and subscribe. It costs nothing and the algorithm thanks you. The path that led here is the part worth telling. Let me start from the first hour. A pillar of light 1 kilometer tall goes up off the deployment platform outside Gwangju City. The 100 kindling starships that were parked in neat rows a second ago are simply gone, thrown out into a stretch of sky nobody has charted. I pull the virtual helmet off my head and log out of the White Tower network, and my face is doing something I would rather it did not. What I have just watched is the live Star-C deployment of the graduating class of Gwangju City. Gwangju sits one place above us in the standings. I am a graduating student of Gangwon First Kindling Academy, which means the scene I have been staring at for the last quarter of an hour becomes my turn shortly. Ultra-long distance deployment into the Star-C, exploring water nobody has mapped, and I am about to do both at once. There is fear in that, and there is something else underneath it, because an opportunity like this does not come around twice. A man who takes hold of it properly can go a very long way up. This is the great era of the Star-C. Tens of millions of years ago the multiverse came apart, and the land fragments left behind when countless universes scattered across the void realm. The multiverse era ended and a new one arrived because it had to. The surviving civilizations call it the Shattered Star-C era. Those surviving fragments of cosmic land picked up a name of their own along the way, which is floating continents. It did not take long for every race out there to notice that a floating continent is the ultimate residue of a universe, and that most of them are stuffed with rare resources. So everybody went to war over them and nobody gave an inch. And the whole Shattered Star-C has been burning ever since. Across tens of millions of years, in every corner of it, civilizations are annihilated every moment and vanish out of the record, and brand new ones keep coming up like bamboo after rain. Kindling human civilization is one of those. Inside our territory, every legal citizen may deploy on an ultra-long-distance interstellar jump through a kindling starship at the age of 30 and begin exploring the Star-C. Genetic technology has pushed the average lifespan to 140 years, so 30 here is roughly what coming of age used to mean. Since the flame seed source origin was first lit over 300,000 years ago, this has been the rule every member of the civilization keeps. At 30, a citizen may attempt to awaken the flame seed, bind a kindling starship, and start working a star domain. Scavenge alien resources, strengthen the ship, sublimate the life level, and hold the border against the alien civilizations pressing on it, which gets stronger every decade. Awakening the flame seed and taking control of a kindling starship is the single most important hour in the life of any citizen here. Awaken successfully and you are immediately above the people who did not. Push the ship high enough and the rest stops being difficult. Carving out territory, being in Fiaft, becoming the star domain master of a wide star domain, holding a long life, stepping into the nobility of this civilization. I put the feeling down, stand up, drop into a horse stance and raise both hands with the palms turned up and slowly opening. That is the standard posture for the guiding technique. By the official data, this set of movements, which this civilization spent tens of thousands of years developing, strengthens the body and pushes the sublimation of the life level. It also raises the odds of a successful awakening. Before 30, the higher a man's guiding technique rank, the better his chances, which is the whole reason the awakening age was set at 30 in the first place. Against a 140-year lifespan, it gives a person enough time to cultivate the technique properly and drive the odds up. It also leaves room for the basic Star-C knowledge that keeps a newly awakened captain alive out there. And the 100 years left over is more than enough to strengthen the ship and sublimate the life level repeatedly. 3 problems solved by 1 number. 3 hours later, I stop. More than 20 years of it without a break has put my guiding technique at level 4, and getting past that is not something that happens quickly anymore. The sky outside is black and I have no intention of continuing. I wash and go straight to bed, because tomorrow is the Flame Seed Awakening, and being rested matters more than anything else I could do tonight. The ceremony on the Gangwon First Kindling Academy playground starts early. Jang Riri, Flame Seed Awakening successful, quality colorless. The officer from the White Tower Kindling Bureau calls out. Next, Jupung B. Several hundred students react in several hundred different ways below the platform. A few sigh quietly, and most of the faces are simply envious. Every legal citizen may attempt this at 30, and the success rate is not high, and by the historical average at this academy, 4 out of 10 is a good year. This is the academy where the elites are collected. Every other kindling academy in the city does worse. I am in that crowd with my fists shut, envious like everybody else, and extremely nervous. 30 years, and all of it comes down to this morning. Joe Pungbi, Flame Seed Awakening failed, the voice says, and calls the next name. Joe Unpung, Flame Seed Awakening successful, quality colorless. Student after student passes or fails, and then it is class 5 of grade 10, which is mine. Next, Sun Ho. Beside me, a figure close to 7 feet tall, built along the general lines of a black bear, shivers where he stands. I put a hand on his shoulder and tell him to relax, and I tell him to keep it up. Sun Ho is one of the very few people at this academy I would call a friend. He nods once and walks up to the platform. Sun Ho, the officer announces, Flame Seed Awakening successful, quality white. The student crowd makes a noise. Everybody here knows that awakening the flame seed and the quality of the flame seed are two different results. Colorless is the floor. Above it is white, then blue, then purple, and upward from there. Do not let white being second from the bottom fool anybody, because it frequently takes dozens of awakenings to produce one. The odds on blue or purple are so low that discussing them is a hobby rather than a plan. I smile at that, genuinely pleased for him. The moment Sun Ho steps down, he is surrounded by friendly greetings from people who have not exchanged 4 sentences with him in 10 years. All of them are crowding in to deepen an acquaintance that does not exist. It is not that they are snobs. Sun Ho at this moment is a genuinely hot commodity, because for a white quality flame seed, the small consortiums and chambers of commerce and families are extremely willing to invest. The moment he nods and signs a legal investment agreement, he receives a substantial injection of kindling starship strengthening resources, and from there the promotion speed of his ship leaves everybody else behind. An initial kindling starship is rank 0. Every subsequent upgrade and every component eats resources, and without money behind it the climb is agonizingly slow. Next, Song Chi. 4 people in a row have just failed, and it is my turn. Sun Ho throws me a look meant to encourage. I take a breath, put the nerves somewhere else, and walk up. On the platform, guided by the Kindling Bureau officer, I put my right hand out toward the pitch-black flame standing in front of me. That flame is called the Flame Seed Source Origin, and although it is not the original fire at the core star domain of this civilization, it was separated off from that fire. It helps a human body awaken the flame seed and raises the success rate. My right palm goes warm. It feels like a fraction of a second, and also like 10,000 years. And then something stings in the center of my palm like a needle going in, and my eyes open. Song Chi, flame seed awakening successful, quality colorless. Walking back down, I am carrying about 4 things at once, half of them good. The good half is that I awakened it all. That the extraordinary road in front of me is going to be smoother than it would have been. That 30 years of work did not evaporate. The bad half is the quality. A colorless flame seed is the bottom tier and its ceiling is low. It is perfectly fine early. If the quality never rises, then as the years go by the strengthening of the ship stalls out, and the road ends with me still standing on it. Then something scalds my chest and I remember what is hanging there. The Star C market token is heating up. In 30 years that has never once happened. I go back to where my class is queued with my face full of a question, and from the outside that reads as a man who has just been knocked sideways. Hyun, Sun Ho says, hurrying over to comfort me, do not think about it too hard, because the quality of a flame seed can be raised and colorless is nothing. I shake my head gently to tell him I am fine, and it is not a brave face. The instant colorless came out of that officer's mouth, I was disappointed for about a second and a half. Then I turned it around, because Sun Ho is right that the grade can be raised. It is extremely difficult and it eats resources most people never see. As a transmigrator, I have a certain confidence about getting there slowly. Yes, I am a transmigrator, and I came across through the womb. What I actually want to think about right now is the token on my chest. That copper plaque is the thing that dragged me out of Earth in my last life and put me in this one. For 30 years I have been entirely certain it is the one sheet I brought across with me. Now it is changing, and I am supposed to stand here in a crowd and not care. I cannot take it out and stare at it in front of the entire graduating class, so I do not. The burning fades on its own before long. Another half hour and the ceremony is finished. Out of more than 600 students, fewer than 200 awakened. Crying, laughing, shouting, sobbing, all of it going at once across the square, some of it delighted and some of it not. Because from this moment, the 2 groups of people standing in that square are living 2 completely different lives. Attention, a voice says. Everybody who awakened follows their homeroom teacher to the kindling building. Everybody who did not, leave the school inside the hour. It comes out of the teacher's office building, deep and carrying, and when we turn to look, a figure goes off the roof with visible pitch-black psionic energy erupting around him. A ring of black flame opens under his feet and he vanishes. And when he reappears, he is standing on air above every student in the yard. Principal Ju Yogyu. He controls a high-level kindling starship. His life level has ascended to the 3rd tier, and he has run this academy for 150 years. The pressure coming down off him puts the weight of a full-grown man on my shoulders, which is nothing to me with the guiding technique at level 4. I am extremely aware that he is holding almost all of it back. If he let a third-tier lifeform's aura off the leash, every student on this playground would be on the ground, and some of them would be on the ground with broken bones. My breathing goes heavier and my face does not change, and something hot comes up behind my eyes anyway. Riding the wind, walking on empty air. The thing everybody on Blue Star used to daydream about is standing in front of me, and I've watched it happen a great many times and it still does not settle. With the principal watching, the teachers move at a speed nobody has seen from them before, and the 200 of us go to the kindling building fast. Out of the corner of my eye, I count class 5 and 16 of us awakened. 2 white flame seeds in that 16, Sun Ho and a boy called Wang Wan, and the other 14 are colorless. On the second floor in Psionic Energy Modification Room 5, our homeroom teacher Yang Myunghui has the 16 of us lie down in individual modification chambers, and when everybody is in, he hits the switch. The lids come down until they seal, and pitch black psionic energy floods the space inside. I am not nervous, because this is on the syllabus. Psionic energy modification is mandatory after an awakening. Once the flame seed wakes, it grants the awakener and the ship bound to him the ability to control psionic energy. What makes psionic energy remarkable among the energies of the shattered star sea is how inclusive it is. It converts the overwhelming majority of known energy into more of itself, which means we can turn essentially any star sea resource into fuel for ourselves, and that single property is why this civilization has been advancing without stopping, and why the border keeps moving outward. At the moment of first awakening, though, a body that has just gained control of psionic energy cannot adapt to it, and it produces rejection reactions of various unpleasant kinds. The only complete fix is to baptize the body in psionic energy long enough to convert it into a psionic body outright, and the modification chamber exists to make that take hours instead of years. Eyes shut, palms open, the guiding technique running through me the way it has run every day since I was old enough to stand in the posture. I do not know how long it takes. Then the point between my brows starts to swell and my heart jumps, because that is the signal. Only once the body is fully converted can a man gestate the kindling ancestral aperture between his brows, and that is where the flame seed lives and where the kindling starship will be stored. A few minutes later, all 16 of us are through it with the aperture open. Follow me, Yang Myunghui says. There is one step left, which is fusing the starship. Only when a flame seed successfully fuses with an ordinary starship and turns it into a kindling starship is a man a properly qualified successor of this civilization. Behind the kindling building there is an enormous conventional starship base, and every student in the city who awakened comes here to fuse a first ship. In the Scout class Starsea shuttle hangar there are close to 200 of us doing it in order. There is no element of choice involved, because every flame seed fuses with exactly one model, the kindling psionic shuttle. It is what every initial kindling starship in this civilization is. Song-chi, somebody calls, and I step up. In front of a standard Scout class shuttle I move the psionic energy inside me clumsily and gather it between my brows. A beam of psionic light goes out of my forehead and into the fuselage. Then something enormous starts pulling from the aperture, and the shuttle in front of me shrinks steadily until it is the size of a fingernail and goes into my head. I shut my eyes and look inside. At the center of a chaotic space there is a wisp of black flame floating, and the shuttle is sitting above it being roasted continuously. A few minutes later a panel opens beside it. It has no name and asks me to supply one soon. The model is Kindling Psionic Shuttle. The level is level 0. Under basic components there is a colorless kindling hull, a psionic main cannon, a psionic secondary cannon, hull armor, a psionic engine, a psionic shield, a patrol radar, and a psionic cultivation platform. Every one of them is at level 0. 8 slots out of 8 filled. Special components, none. 0 out of 2. Psionic pool, 100 out of 1,000. And supplies, none. I skip the top 3 lines and go to the components. Basic components are the standard fit every psionic shuttle has the moment fusion finishes. The colorless kindling hull needs no explanation. It is joined to the flame seed in my aperture and upgrades whenever the seed does. Taking the seed from level 0 to level 1 wants 5 strands of floating land origin and 200 points of psionic energy. I am about to keep reading when Yang Myunghui starts hurrying us, so I pull my attention out and give my place to the next student. Every awakened student gets through fusion, and the low probability failure does not happen to anybody, which visibly relieves every teacher in the hangar. Fusion can fail. The odds are almost negligible and the consequences not, because a failed fusion means waiting a month for the flame seed to buffer before trying again, which matters enormously, because only the first 3 days after an awakening are the special protection period, and exploring an alien star region inside that window is dramatically safer. It is a newcomer benefit in the plainest sense. As long as a man does not go out of his way to die, there is essentially no threat to his life, He collects real experience of an alien star region for free while harvesting an extra allocation of resources. For a rookie captain, that is not a thing anybody skips. And once fusion fails, that 1-month buffer cannot be argued with, and all a man can do is watch the window close. Assemble at the Academy Plaza at 8 tomorrow morning. Yang Myung-hui tells us at the Class 5 gathering point. He is looking at 16 faces he has been responsible for years, with 1,000 things behind his teeth. Go home today and prepare properly. Even a welfare exploration produces casualties every year, so do not treat it lightly. Received. All 16 of us say. I part from Sun Ho and catch a kinetic flying car at the roadside. Home is in the city center, not far from the academy, and it takes under 20 minutes to reach the entrance of the Donggang residential area. 10 universal credit points deducted, my watch says, and gives me the balance, which sits a little over 2,400,000. My face does not move. An outsider looking at that number would not manage the same. Credit points are the common currency of the Morningstar Principality, and their purchasing power is solid. An ordinary person earns around 3,000 a month and can save 2,000 of it after expenses, which means saving 2.5 million takes about 100 years of counting every point. For a student who has not graduated, it is an unreasonable amount of money, and it did not come from my parents. I earned it over 30 years. In my last life, I was a working failure of a novelist, and I retained a small amount of the talent. Over 20-odd years here, I wrote a fair number of books. The two best known are the one about a ship breaking through the firmament and the one about a continent under a falling sky. Unfortunately, after 300,000 years of development, web literature in this civilization is not an empty field. Both of them were mildly popular, and the royalties across all of it came to those 2 million and change, which is not a number anybody here would be impressed by. Donggang Residential Area, Building 5, Apartment 403. The moment I open the door, my dad, Song Cho, and my mom, Jin Ryoha, both look at me at once. Son, you are back, my mum says, and tells me to come quickly because she made my braised deep-sea mackerel. My eyes come up. I put the bag down, get to the table fast, and finish an entire bowl of the soup. The warm current going out of my stomach through the rest of me puts a look on my face that I am not going to apologize for. Deep-sea mackerel does not taste good. It is arguably terrible, and in the eyes of any normal child, it would head the list of foods to refuse. I have eaten it for over 20 years, because what is in that fish is a thick load of blood energy, and blood energy pushes the guiding technique hard. That fish is one of the reasons I have level 4 in 20 years, while most people my age are stuck on level 2, with the talented ones at level 3. The higher the level, the harder and slower it gets. That is common knowledge across the whole territory. I spread my hands and run the technique and start pulling the blood energy out of the soup to speed the cultivation along, although it should be called the psionic guidance technique now. Once the psionic transformation finishes and the body converts, the guiding technique upgrades itself automatically, and the psionic version runs faster than the plain one. Watching wisps of black psionic energy come off me, both of them lose the anxiety at speed. They both awaken flame seeds themselves and know exactly what they are looking at, and a sun who can already drive psionic energy is a sun who awakened. Colorless flame seed, I tell them, while I am still absorbing. Psionic shuttle fused. First alien star region exploration at 8 tomorrow morning. They nod slightly, and there is not a trace of disappointment anywhere on either of them. When I was born, they both carried colorless flame seeds, and their bloodline ceiling was set there, so a sun who awakened at all was the entire hope. White quality or above was never on their list of expectations, from the first day to this one, because the odds are what they are. Song Chi, my dad says after lunch, come here. In the study he goes solemn and instructs me at some length. Then a ghost of light crosses his brow, and 2 balls of light come out of his aperture and hang in front of me. This is the starting resource your mother and I are giving you, he says. 1,000 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, and a white special component for the kindling starship, a fire sunflower soldier tree. I am openly delighted. That is not an enormous quantity, and for somebody standing at the start line, it covers an initial round of strengthening across the shuttle's performance and puts real numbers on its combat power and survivability. It puts my starting point ahead of most of my year. Nobody should underestimate a step that's short, because 1 step ahead is every step ahead, and a lead that's small at the beginning is occasionally the whole reason a man ends up in the sky. What I want more than the 1,000 strands is that white quality fire sunflower soldier tree. Every colored kindling starship component has to come out of a Star Sea exotic item, and the moment those 4 words attach to anything, the value goes vertical, even at the bottom white grade. And this is a soldier puppet component. That is the single most sought after category there is. Because a puppet that can be summoned at will works as a guard, or as combat support, or as something to put between a captain and whatever is trying to kill him. Any one of those raises his survival rate enormously. They get fought over the moment one appears. Thank you, Dad, I say, and thank you, Mom. I move the psionic energy in me and take both balls of light into my aperture, absorb one more round of instruction from the pair of them, and finally get to go upstairs. Back in my bedroom, I do not go straight into the aperture to finish reading the shuttle's attributes. I take the copper plaque off my chest instead, because I have carried the thing that transmigrated me every day of this life. It is not large, about half the size of a lighter. There are 4 small characters cut into the front reading Starsea Ruins Market, which is why I have always called it the Starsea Market token. I turn it over and find the change fast. For 30 years, it has been an ordinary piece of copper that does nothing no matter what I do to it. Right now, there is a faint pitch black luster lying across the surface, so weak that a man not looking for it would miss it entirely. That is psionic energy. My eyes come up, and the plaque changes again. Presumably because I have been staring, a panel opens beside it. It calls itself the Psionic Energy Starsea Market Token. Category Growth Type Exotic Item and Quality Unknown. Level 0. Its first trait controls and connects to a specific conditions are met. Its second says that the token can upgrade itself once specific conditions are met. And the remark at the bottom calls it a peerless item among exotic items with infinite potential. Attribute panel. Psionic Energy. Could the psionic energy I picked up an hour ago be what triggered this? And beyond that, this token is a Starsea exotic item, and a growth type 1, which is a category I have never heard anybody mention. Although the name does sound impressive. A great many thoughts arrive at once, and then something else does. I focus, gather the small amount of psionic energy I have into my right palm, and push it slowly into the plaque. Something enormous takes hold of my whole body. I know immediately that this has gone wrong, and I do not get the flow shut off in time. And the next second, a wave of dizziness comes up through my head. I fight the nausea down, open my eyes and scan everything around me several times over, and only after confirming there is nothing dangerous do I let my shoulders drop a fraction. I am not relaxing further than that, because I have already established one fact, which is that I am not in my bedroom. I am somewhere I have never been. Once the nausea finishes, I start looking properly. Warmth comes off the bronze token still in my hand, and as I go to look down at it, a stream of information arrives in my head instead. The place has no name, and its market master is me. Level 0. The specifications run about 300 feet on a side. The basic configuration is 10 vacant shops, 1 stall area roughly 30 feet square, and a single-story inn that sleeks 10. There is 1 level 0 all-attribute cultivation room, where efficiency doubles for psionic energy defensive array. 1 level 0 ultra-long-range random space gate deployment platform. Additional configuration? None. 0 out of 2. Its trait is danger avoidance, which lets it move freely within the void and instinctively evade natural disasters. Upgrading it wants 10 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, and a ruins market transaction volume reaching 100 strands of the same. And the note at the bottom calls it an inconspicuous little ruins market on the dark side of the shattered Starsea, apparently admitting only creatures below Tier 1, with good potential. A few minutes of sorting that out and my eyes are bright, and what I am feeling does not have a word attached to it. I turn and look outward through the half circle of psionic energy shield behind me, and outside there is nothing but pitch black void. A long way out, void storms are going past with a sound like the end of something, and everywhere they touch, dense spatial rifts open and tear the space apart. My scalp crawls at the sight of it. As far as I know, tearing space is a thing only a heavily upgraded kindling starship manages, and out in that blackness storms doing it casually are everywhere. Then I remember what I just read, and the fear drains off. By that information, I am standing inside a special secret realm space floating in a void rift on the dark side of the shattered Starsea. It is said to be the product of an ancient civilization that called itself the Immortal Domain. Somebody powerful out of that Immortal Domain civilization fitted this space with a rare ultra-long-range random space gate deployment platform. Because of that, it has spent its whole existence as a trading ruins market connecting distant regions. And it carries the rare danger avoidance trait which lets it dodge the void storms inside the rifts on its own. That is the entire reason it has survived drifting out here for tens of thousands of years, which lets me finally put my shoulders down properly. Nobody has controlled this market for tens of thousands of years before me, and it has not been destroyed in all that time, which tells me exactly how good danger avoidance is. So I go and look at the place. It burned enormous quantities of energy out here with nothing replenishing it for tens of thousands of years. Presumably that is why a once extremely prosperous market secret realm has shrunk to its floor. Its length and width and height are all inside a few hundred feet. That is pitiful. Along the only street, 10 storefronts and an inn and the stall area are laid out evenly on both sides. At the far end on the left is the only all-attribute cultivation room, and directly opposite it stands the most important building in the market, the ultra-long-range random space gate deployment platform. Looking at those two brings up their details. The all-attribute cultivation room is level 0 and raises cultivation speed by 200% inside it, and by 400% when the cultivator is working on psionic energy specifically. It is a single-person room. The note calls it a super high specification room from the hand of a powerful figure of the immortal domain civilization. Says that having been modified by the special energy called psionic energy, cultivating that particular energy inside it carries additional bonuses, upgrading it once the ruins market at level 1 and 10 wisps of tier 0 floating land origin. The deployment platform is also level 0. Once activated, it randomly places 10 space gates across the shattered star sea that lead into and out of the ruins market. The gates last 24 hours with a cooldown of 720. Because of the market's own tier, life forms at tier 1 and above cannot currently pass through them. The note calls it a magical building from the same hand, with an extraordinary function, and wants the same upgrade materials. Reading both, I want to test that platform immediately. Because of the token, I am the new owner of this market. That means that inside it I am the master of every rule that applies, and as long as nothing above the market's own tier gets in, I am effectively invincible in here. Knowing I am in no danger of any kind, obviously I want to try the core function. That is connecting different star regions of the shattered star sea, so that a man can talk and trade with alien civilizations. And it is worth remembering that upgrading this place requires transaction volume specifically. Unless I am content to sit in a market 300 feet on a side forever, and trade only with tier 0 races, that platform has to run regularly. I fight with myself for a while and then put the impulse down. The reasoning is simple. It is already afternoon and there are under 20 hours until assembly, and the moment I activate the platform, the gates it opens last a full day. Which means opening this market now collides directly with the exploration tomorrow morning. As market master, I have absolute control in here and can hold order as long as nothing at tier 1 or above appears. Every part of that depends on me being physically inside the market. If I leave halfway through, there's no telling what this space turns into while I am gone. Beyond which I have a great many things to prepare, because tomorrow is a first exploration, and I intend to be ready for it. And I have quite a few ideas about the ground under my feet that want verifying one at a time. So I use the token to go in and out several times, carrying something different on each trip. A water bottle, and a school bag, and a chair. 10 minutes and I have my first answer, which is that anything I can pick up and hold comes into the market with me, and anything past what I can personally carry does not. With that settled, I walk quickly to the stall area I passed on the way in, which is one of the few open spaces in here. The 30-foot square is unremarkable, and is more than enough for a psionic shuttle whose hull runs a little over 20 feet. That is right. What I want to know is whether I can summon my shuttle inside this market. I gather every scrap of psionic energy in me toward the point between my brows. Something moves there and I am openly pleased, because the aperture has genuinely opened. A ray of light goes out of my forehead, and the compact psionic shuttle appears out of nothing in the open space in front of me. I can summon the psionic shuttle inside the ruins market. The feeling that produces is not easy to hold on to, because on top of being able to step in here the instant a crisis arrives, that is a life-saving trick on its own. A great many of the ideas I generated earlier suddenly have room to operate. Generally speaking, what is the single most maddening problem a kindling starship captain faces on an alien star region exploration? Most people would say alien civilizations, because running into something powerful out there produces exactly one outcome, which is a destroyed ship and a dead crew. That is not the truth. What genuinely gives every captain a headache without exception is cargo space. The ship is a fixed size and what it carries is therefore limited. Because of that, every captain calculates and recalculates before deployment, and again on the return, squeezing the hold to its absolute limit. Which is why the bulky machinery, the fierce Tiger Type 1 floating land mining vehicle, and the Hornet-class combat drones and the land combat Type 4 exploration robots is almost impossible to bring. Even if a man carries one out, the moment he actually strikes something in an alien star region, the return becomes a problem. Does he bring the big machine home, or abandon it to free space for what he mined? That equipment is not cheap, and throwing it away is survivable if what he brings back is valuable. The real fear is mining a load worth less than the machine he dumped, which is a straight loss. And if he does not throw it away, a kindling starship is only so large. So how much ore is coming home? That contradiction has never been resolved, and every captain alive finds it intolerable, which is exactly why space folding and expansion type components have been bid into the stratosphere. Even a white quality space component routinely sells for what a blue or a purple one costs, and most of the time there are none for sale at any price. On the ride home this afternoon, I was still allocating and reallocating the small hold of that shuttle, trying to build a perfect plan before tomorrow. It appears I do not have to. A ruins market space where a man can freely summon his kindling starship is a near-perfect backup hold, and an extremely large one. It restricts what a person carries in and refuses large objects, and the ship does not care, because the ship stores inside the aperture. which leaves room to work. Load the heavy machinery into the ship, put the ship into the aperture, walk into the market and summon the ship back out, and the single-person carry restriction has been bypassed completely. And out in an alien star region, the same operation runs in reverse. Use the ship as the carrier, put resources that could never have come home into the market. The harvest of every exploration goes up by a factor I do not want to guess at yet. All of which rests on one prerequisite, which is that after I am deployed to an alien star region, I can still open this place and walk in. If I cannot, none of it exists. A prompt cuts across all of that and tells me to name the ruins market as soon as possible, which reminds me that it is not only the ground under my feet. The shuttle in front of me does not have a name either. I think for about a dozen seconds and a word arrives. Heavens. I read a great many Shangsha novels in my last life. Since the market under my feet connects at random to star regions across the whole shattered star sea, the Heavens Market is about as appropriate as a name gets. Heavens Market, the system says. Naming successful. Then it is the shuttle's turn, and the shuttle takes considerably longer, because with the number of kindling starships in this civilization, most of the good names have been registered for centuries. I try the obvious ones and get told each time that the name already exists, and to change it. I try several more and get the same answer with progressively less of the sentence, until the system is barely bothering to finish the refusal. Firmament, I try. Firmament has not been used, it tells me, and asks whether I am sure. I am extremely sure, and I confirm it before anything can change its mind. Naming done, I finally get to read the shuttle properly, since Yang Myungwi interrupted me halfway through this morning, and I have not seen the whole thing yet. Everything sits at level 0, and there is not much to look at anywhere except the components, because the ship is a blank sheet. Take special components. A newly fused kindling starship gets 2 slots, and the number only grows when the shuttle upgrades, and how many it gains depends on the quality of the flame seed. Higher quality, more slots. Which is the other reason the civilization is obsessive about flame seed quality, because it sets both the ceiling on the ship and the combat strength between 2 ships of identical rank. Picture 2 kindling starships at level 10. The one running a white flame seed might carry 10 special components. A psionic shuttle on a colorless seed gets 6 at the absolute most. That is nearly double, and there is no meaningful comparison between what those 2 ships can do to each other. I focus and the details come up one at a time. The psionic main cannon at level 0 is colorless quality, burns 10 psionic energy a shot for a might of 11, wants 5 seconds to charge and 10 to recover, upgrades on 1 strand of tier 0 floating land origin, and 100 psionic energy points. The secondary cannon costs 1 per shot for a might of 1 and change, needs no charge or buffer at all, and upgrades on 100 points. Hull armor drains 1 per second for a defense of 11, and it wants a strand of origin and 100 points and a ton of refined iron. The psionic engine drains 1 per second, supplies 10, needs half an hour to recover from an overload. Holds a pool of 1,000 points, and upgrades on a strand of origin, 100 points and 5 life nuclei. The psionic shield drains 3 per second for a defense of 11, and a shield value of 110. It takes 30 seconds to charge and an hour to recover from an overload, and it costs the same as the engine. The patrol radar drains 1 per second, reaches 1 light second, has a precision of 10, and upgrades on a wisp and 100 points. Then the psionic cultivation platform, which is the one that stops me. It drains 2 per second and multiplies cultivation by 2, and that multiplier only works on tier 0 lifeforms. Upgrading it wants 5 strands of origin and 10 life nuclei. Everything above it is data I have known since I was a schoolboy, and none of it needs thinking about. The platform does. As one of the core components of a kindling starship, that thing is the actual reason every single person in this civilization is desperate to own a ship of their own. Risking a life exploring an alien star region has an ultimate goal, and the goal is not sightseeing. What holds the exploratory spirit of this civilization together has always been the strange resources sitting out there, which raises the next question, which is what plundering those resources is ultimately for. Strengthening the kindling starship. Except that is not it either, or not all of it. Strengthening the ship is unavoidable, and it is the surface of the thing. What every captain alive is actually chasing is the sublimation of his own life level, which is to say longevity. Living longer. Everybody knows that a guiding technique cultivated high enough triggers a metamorphosis of the life level, and every metamorphosis extends a lifespan. And everybody also knows that the higher the level, the more monstrous the difficulty, and triggering the first metamorphosis at all is like climbing into the sky, never mind the ones after it. The psionic cultivation platform bound to every kindling starship solves that problem perfectly. It drives the psionic guidance technique hard enough to let a captain climb at double or triple or better speed, and to trigger the metamorphosis again and again. And the higher the ship is strengthened, the better the platform gets. So the honest position is that no captain in this civilization cares about the kindling starship. They care about the platform bolted to it. which is when I remember the all-attribute cultivation room sitting in the Heavens Market whose bonus on psionic energy is 400%, exactly double the platform I am currently looking at. Earlier, my whole attention went to that Space Gate platform, and I skimmed the rest. Recalling it now, everything I suppressed 20 minutes ago comes straight back up, because I know precisely what this means. It means the cultivation speed of my psionic guidance technique is going to leave every captain of my rank behind. It means better odds on raising my life level, and more years. And it means that even if I never manage to improve the quality of my flame seed, my personal cultivation does not care. Which is true and is not a reason to abandon the ship unless I am forced to. Because strengthening the market and stocking it with goods both eat resources, and monthly market trade alone will not cover it. And a ruins market has essentially no firepower, where a kindling starship strengthened far enough can hold down an entire floating continent on its own. So I lay out a rough plan. The ruins market is the foundation, and the kindling starship is the supplement. One accelerates the metamorphosis of my life level, and the other supplies the guns. They advance together and neither gets in the other's way. With the hierarchy settled, I turn to strengthening the shuttle, because tomorrow is a first exploration, and welfare or not, the necessary work has to happen. Careful sailing makes a ship that lasts 10,000 years, and I have never needed that principle explained to me. I pull the fire sunflower soldier tree out of the aperture and install it in one of the 2 special slots. At level 0, it is white quality, costs 50 psionic energy. Summons 10 level 0 fire sunflower soldier, puppets that do not die of age and last indefinitely, and once killed take a day to resummon. Upgrading wants 5 wisps of origin and 500 points. Then I tally what I actually have. Beyond the 1,000 strands of tier 0 floating land origin from my parents, there is the 2,400,000 in the account. By the Principality's official rate, 10,000 credit points buys 1 strand of tier 0 origin. So all in, I am holding about 1,240 strands. Out of that, I have to reserve at least 500 for the shopping. Medical supplies, a basic nanobot repair kit, a fierce Tiger Type 1 mining vehicle, the exploration instrument that mounts on it, and so on. That leaves roughly 700 for the shuttle itself. The first component is not a decision. It is the psionic shield because once it runs, it wraps the hull in an energy shell, and that is the primary defense of any kindling starship. For a man who owns the Heavens Market and can raise his life level simply by cultivating step by step, staying alive out there is the only thing on the list. Except that upgrading it wants floating land origin, psionic energy points, and a thing called a life nucleus. I know what those are. Across the shattered star sea, most life forms leave a special crystal in the body after death holding the overwhelming majority of the energy essence they absorbed while alive, and that is the life nucleus. It functions as a universal resource, and a great many civilizations fold it into their currency systems, and this one is no exception. In any reasonably large chamber of commerce or family business, it can be spent and exchanged, and so can the other common upgrade materials, refined iron and floating land origin among them. So I greet my parents on the way past, and go back out to the Donggang Kindling Mall. That is one of a great many such malls in Gangwon City, and has few merchants stationed in it, and is entirely sufficient for a captain who awakened this morning. A dozen minutes of comparing prices gets me the life nuclei I need. Then, rather than going home, I summon the shuttle in the mall's designated upgrade area and start. Are you sure you want to spend 1 strand of tier 0 floating land origin, 100 psionic energy points, and 5 life nuclei to take the psionic shield from level 0 to level 1? Confirmed. 4 upgrades in a row, and the 1,000 points stored in the engine's pool are gone and need replacing. Fortunately, the refill is quick, since with only the engine running it banks 9 a second and fills in under 2 minutes. 2 minutes later I go again. In the end, the shield reaches level 7. The total bill comes to 59 strands of tier 0 origin, 56 tier 0 life nuclei, and 2,800 psionic energy points. Of those 59 strands, 49 went into upgrades and the other 10 bought 100 life nuclei. At level 7, the shield drains 10 a second for a defense of 18 and a shield value of 180, charging in 23 seconds with a 46-minute cooldown after an overload. That is a genuine improvement. I still do not feel comfortable, as a transmigrator's survival is paramount is carved into my bones, somewhere below thought, so I go straight into the hull armor. Its defense does not match the shield, and it is still one of the important layers on any kindling starship, so I am not neglecting it. A few minutes later, it is also at level 7. Each upgrade there eats refined iron though, and reaching level 7 took 28 tons of it at 1 strand of tier 0 origin per ton. Total cost on the armor, 77 strands of origin, for a defense of 18 at 3 points a second. With both the shield and the armor at level 7, their draw on activation goes well past what the engine supplies. That means that if I want the shield running after deployment into an unknown star region, the engine is not optional either. 4 upgrades later, I am down to 9 life nuclei, which does not cover the 5th, so I spend another 20 strands on 200 more. The engine finishes at level 7 for the same bill the shield cost, and the 188 nuclei left over go into the shuttle for later. At level 7, it drains 4 a second, supplies 24, recovers from overload in 23 minutes, and holds a pool of 1700. After the engine comes the psionic main cannon. Because welfare deployment or not, alien life forms are everywhere out there and nobody can promise I will not meet one. I take it to level 5 for 25 strands and 1500 points, which brings it to 20 per shot for a power of 16, charging in 4 seconds and cooling in 8. The power is up and both timings are down, which is a good trade. The last thing is the patrol radar. The star sea is enormous, and the distance between one floating continent and the next starts at light years. A strong radar is what keeps a captain from getting lost. It is what finds resource points like alien star region, floating continents, and asteroid belts faster, and its importance does not need arguing. It takes the same materials as the main cannon, and I push it straight to level 9. That runs 81 strands and 4,500 points, and brings the detection range to 10 light seconds at an accuracy of 20. As for why I do not take it to level 19, which is the ceiling for a colorless kindling starship, the colorless upper limit is Tier 1, and Tier 1 runs from level 10 to level 19. The reasoning is simple. This radar is a standard colorless unit, and it is going to be replaced later regardless, and resources spent on strengthening do not come back when a component is swapped out. And beyond that, I do not have them. The plan allowed about 700 strands for the shuttle. That run has already used over 300, which leaves under 400, and there is still the fire sunflower soldier tree waiting. White quality special components eat considerably more than colorless hull components. Level 0 to level 1 alone wants 5 strands and 500 points, which makes it an expensive habit. I am strengthening it anyway, because those soldier puppets are how I stay alive for a long time to come. So I set my teeth and take it to level 10, and the nearly 400 strands I was holding a second earlier become 104, which is where exploration work ends. I keep those 104 for emergencies, because if something goes wrong out there, or something unusual turns up, that is the money that buys the correct response on the spot. As for strengthening the heavens market and the flame seed in my aperture, I think about it and decide neither is urgent, since guaranteeing that this first exploration is survivable comes first, and who knows, a welfare run might pay. At Tier 1, the Fire Sunflower Soldier Tree reads well, 100 psionic energy per unit, summoning 10 level 10 Fire Sunflower Soldier puppets that persist indefinitely so long as they are not killed. A day to resummon after a death, and upgrading now wants Tier 1 origin, which means I can put 10 Tier 1 puppets around myself whenever I want, the absolutely loyal kind that do exactly what they are told, and nothing else. As long as they are not killed in a fight and I do not recall them, they simply stay. Thinking about that is more satisfying than it should be. Once I have calmed down, I go shopping again, because I still need the heavy machinery, and my choice is the Eagle Machinery Shop on the top floor. It is a large mechanical chain across the Morningstar Principality, and the shareholder behind it is reportedly Marquis Eagle, a powerful noble, and the quality of what they sell is guaranteed. As a man whose 2 lives add up to nearly 60 years, my mouth still works. Under sustained and entirely dishonest pressure, and helped by the fact that I am genuinely buying a great deal, the young woman behind the counter cheerfully gives me 5% off. A primary interstellar universal medical kit at 500,000, and a basic nano robot repair kit at $1 million. A Fierce Tiger Type 1 mining vehicle at $3 million, and a mining vehicle exploration instrument at 500,000. A basic Principality civilian exoskeleton at 200,000. 5,200,000 before the discount, and 4,940,000 after it. And would I like to pay in credits or floating land origin? I put the whole 2,400,000 in credits across the counter. Then I take 254 strands of Tier 0 origin out of my aperture and finish the payment. My expression while I do it is not one I am proud of, and the young woman behind the counter is visibly enjoying it. Walking out of that mall with 110 strands left on my entire body for emergencies, I have complaints. In my view, the shops selling heavy machinery here are unambiguously black-hearted. Take the basic nano robot repair kit. Its effect is mediocre and it cannot repair a kindling starship that has taken any serious damage. And this assembly line product that can be mass-produced without effort is priced at a full $1 million. The important part is that it also has a strict usage limit and scraps itself after 3 uses. The medical kit is the same story, weak effect and 3 uses. And the Fierce Tiger Type 1 sells for $1 million in the manual version, and bolting an automatic driving system onto it triples the price. If I were not a man with steadiness carved into his bones, nobody would buy that thing. Nothing else happens on the way home. I do not waste what is left of the day and go straight into the all-attribute cultivation room in the Heavens Market to work on the psionic guidance technique. It may be that my guiding technique is already at level 4 while the room is still level 0, or it may be that level 4 is simply that hard. Either way, several hours produce no progress I can detect. Morning. I eat breakfast, go to the academy to gather with my class, and then the whole awakened intake of Gangwon First Kindling Academy heads for the suburbs together. My worried father and mother come along behind the group with a great many other parents, and on the way we pass awakened students out of the other academies in the city. As one of the 5 major cities of the White Tower floating continent, Gangwon City has over 20 million people under its jurisdiction and produces over 100,000 students a year. With numbers like that, there is obviously more than one Kindling Academy here. And although the first academy collects the elite of the whole city, it cannot possibly hold every awakened student in it. By past convention, the number who awaken in a given year runs to about 1,000. Half an hour later, at the ultra-long-range deployment platform in the suburbs, the crowd of Gangwon City residents has already gone past 5,000. The Alien Star Region deployment ceremony is one of the few genuine events this city gets in a year, and a great many people come simply to watch. Once the students and teachers and parents are added, the number standing around that platform has 5 digits in it. Another 20 minutes, and once the district chief of the White Tower Kindling Bureau confirms every graduating awakened student in the city has arrived, the deployment starts. The first academy does not go first. We are arranged last, as the finale. Even from the central urban area, every 20 minutes or so, a pillar of light goes up into the sky. Behind each pillar, 100 newly awakened graduates have been thrown into a stretch of star sea an unimaginable number of light years away. Sun Ho and I are in the same batch. We go up together and summon our shuttles, and once 100 psionic shuttles are lined up, the Kindling Bureau officer outside the platform gives the order. A pillar of light a kilometer across goes straight up. As the 100 shuttles disappear off the platform, my parents and a great many others do not leave. They take outdoor tents out of their bags and start putting them up. The initial Alien Star Region exploration runs 24 hours with an option to return early in an emergency, and not one of those parents is willing to go home and wait somewhere comfortable. An intense weightlessness closes my eyes for me. The vibration is violent enough that the hull sounds like it is coming apart, and if I had not fastened the harness, I would rather not picture where I would be. As the weightlessness and the spinning start letting go, I do not wait for my body to recover. I force my eyes open through the discomfort and immediately activate the psionic shield. My homeroom teacher had a line he used constantly in class, and I agree with all of it. The alien races of the Star Sea do not wait for a man to collect himself. What a captain needs is to be one step faster than whatever is across from him, whether the plan is fighting or running. At level 7, the shield charges in 23 seconds, and when the black shell finishes closing over the hull, I finally breathe out. Only then do I sort my body out and look at what is outside. As for why I did not raise the shield before the jump, that is another piece of common knowledge here. During an ultra-long-range deployment, the hull takes an enormous spatial compression. A shield raised in advance overloads under that force without exception, because no energy shield ever built compares with the power of the void. And what an overloaded shield means to a kindling starship does not need spelling out. As far as I know, it takes at least half an hour of buffering to restart, and sometimes a full hour. Across that window, the ship is not defenseless, and it is weakened by well over 2/3. The danger climbs without a ceiling. Raising the shield before deployment is a serious taboo for every captain in this civilization. My eyes go to the display and my brow comes down, because the screen is black. No stellar bodies, no floating continents. The radar agrees with it and reports nothing large inside its range, and not a floating continent, and not even one of the small debris belts. Something uneasy arrives and I put it down, because there is a more urgent question in my head. Once I have confirmed several times over that there is nothing dangerous near the hull, I take the Starsea market token off my chest and push psionic energy into it. The Fierce Tiger Type 1 mining vehicle and its exploration instrument are both sitting in the ruins market right now. It has to work. I am shouting that on the inside, because whether the Heavens market opens inside an alien star region is not a detail. It very largely decides the ceiling on everything I ever do, and there is no version of me being calm about it. I keep feeding energy in, and my chest keeps sinking because the token does nothing at all. And then, right as I am giving up, that familiar pull takes hold of my whole body. What I feel at that moment is not something I am going to describe with any dignity. The next second my figure is gone out of the shuttle, and at the same time, inside the Heavens market, I am standing on the street. I do not linger. I confirm the result, think myself out, and land back in the shuttle. At the console, with the only question that mattered answered, I can finally put my whole attention on the star region I have been dropped into. In the early stages of a kindling starship, a captain gets 24 hours in an alien star region, and if he wants resources, there is not much of that to waste. And although the Shattered Star Sea is extraordinarily rich, that does not mean any random stretch of it has rare material lying around for collection. Scavenging requires finding a resource point where the occurrence rate is high, which means an asteroid belt, a small debris belt, or a star sea floating continent. The shattered star sea runs for an unmeasurable number of light years, and one kindling starship inside it does not qualify as a grain of sand in an ocean. Finding a resource point inside a single day is considerably harder than it sounds, which is exactly why this civilization repeats that a good patrol radar beats everything else. I open the level 7 engine to full and put the firmament into a straight run at conventional cruising light speed, and I go over that radar again and again. Half an hour, and the light goes out of my eyes and my face loses its color. Could I genuinely be this unlucky? Dropped into a star sea void zone on my first exploration. When the multiverse came apart tens of millions of years ago, it left countless fragments behind. The shattered star sea is so vast that light years do not measure it, so those fragments cannot possibly cover all of it. The gaps are what everybody calls star sea void zones. Generally, the civilizations out here apply the term to any region past 10,000 light years across, with no floating continents, no asteroid belts, and no debris belts, or so few of them as to make no difference. Every civilization avoids them, because a place with no stellar structures is a place with no resources of any kind. If I have genuinely been dropped into one of those, then I am simply unlucky. It turns out I have not. After more than an hour at light speed, the firmament's radar finally picks up a debris belt of respectable size. I adjust course immediately and go straight at it. A small debris belt is the lowest value resource point there is. Set against a floating continent, it does not deserve the comparison. And it comes in well below an asteroid belt as well, and I am delighted anyway. By this civilization's official data, the mortality rate for a kindling starship's first alien star region exploration is only 1 in 20. Of the 19 who come home, better than 7 in 10 come home with nothing at all, so I know precisely what a debris belt in front of me is worth. And although I know perfectly well that where a debris belt exists, a floating continent must exist somewhere not far off, I have no intention of going looking for it. My goal is entirely clear, and it is the belt in front of me. This ship was fused 2 days ago. Even with my parents behind it and a round of upgrades on it, out here where distance is counted in light years, it is a drop in a bucket. And that line from the textbooks about a floating continent existing not far from a debris belt is relative in a way the textbooks do not stress. Because in practice, not far is not a distance a psionic shuttle covers in 24 hours. If I went hunting for that unknown continent, the likeliest outcome is the exploration window closing before I even have exact coordinates. And if I got lucky and arrived, there would be no time left to scavenge anything once I did. Better to work the belt in front of me. Even if a debris belt genuinely holds less than an asteroid belt or a continent, this is the one I can put my hands on today. And I still have a fierce Tiger Type 1 mining vehicle sitting in the ruins market, so if I cannot compete on unit price, I will make it up in volume. The firmament reaches the edge of the belt shortly, and once I confirm it matches the description in the textbooks, I put the impatience down. First, I take the basic Principality civilian exosuit out of the hold and put it on. Then I activate the firmament's only special component. A full 1,000 psionic energy points go out of the pool, and 10 fire sunflower soldier puppets appear, each of them past 7 feet tall and crimson from head to foot, standing in a neat rank in front of me with something hot coming off them. They are extremely satisfying to look at. Those 10 Tier 1 puppets are where my confidence comes from for what happens next. They are newly Tier 1, and they are entirely capable of keeping the firmament safe against anything short of 5 Tier 1 alien creatures at once. Their quality reads as white. Their rank is Tier 1 with a ceiling of Tier 2. Their level is 10, no active ability. One passive called Blazing Like Fire that adds burn damage to a fire attribute puppet's attacks. The description calls them the product of some lost civilization and rates the quality as fairly average, which I choose not to take personally. I order the 10 of them to spread out around me, and psionic light goes off between my brows, and the firmament under my feet vanishes into the aperture. The next second, the 11 of us are hanging in open star space, and the discomfort arrives all over me at once, and I hold my breath without deciding to. As a Starsea human with a guiding technique at level 4 and a life level still at Tier 0, I cannot adapt to this environment. Staying out here for any length of time takes a life level past Tier 1. Fortunately, there is no gravity, and the earlier scan reported no special spores and no floating viruses, so 11 figures simply hang there quietly. I tell the puppets to hold position, and my figure disappears. 2 minutes later, I am back, and I summon the firmament again, except that now there are several large objects sitting in its hold. Inside the cabin, working with 2 of the puppets, I get the mining vehicle exploration instrument mounted onto the fierce Tiger Type 1. Then I take the firmament in and start moving slowly into the belt ahead. That belt runs for tens of thousands of miles with fragments of every size mixed through it, and one moment of inattention is a collision, so cruising at light speed is obviously not happening. Fortunately, there is no need to survey the things one at a time. The onboard system on the mining vehicle, with the instrument fitted, scans automatically, and the moment any special mineral resource sits inside a fragment within about 6 miles of the firmament, it reports. Moving slowly, the alerts come in steadily, and I do not stop for any of them. A black copper reaction on a fragment off to the left, estimated at roughly 200 pounds. A refined iron reaction on a medium fragment ahead, roughly 100. A gold reaction off to the left, roughly 400. Plenty of alerts, all of it common material, and the reserves are pitiful. Never mind ton level, none of it is over 600 or 700 pounds, which is not worth mining. Every time the psionic shuttle stops and deploys the fierce tiger, it costs at least half an hour and frequently more than one. Spending that to pull out 200 or 300 pounds of common ore that does not add up to one strand of Tier 0 floating land origin is not a trade any sane person makes. As for simply towing the whole fragment back to the shuttle, that function belongs to kindling starships at psionic starship class and above. I am several very expensive years away from being one of those. About half an hour after the last alert, the onboard system on the Fierce Tiger Type 1 mining vehicle speaks up again. This time it reports a radiation signature for mithril ore on a fragment off to the left with a preliminary estimate above 10 tons. I am most of the way through ignoring it before the word registers properly. Mithril runs considerably higher than adamantite out here, and where adamantite averages 1 strand of Tier 0 floating land origin per ton, mithril goes for 5. 10 tons of it is 50 strands, and nobody who has ever looked at the numbers calls 50 strands a small amount. The only reason I started this exploration holding 1,000 strands is that both my parents are kindling captains who emptied a good part of their savings into me. An ordinary newly awakened captain brings home about 100 strands from a full run into an alien star region. What that alert just put in front of me is half a trip sitting inside one rock. I turned the firmament left without arguing with myself about it and moved carefully toward the coordinates. I am not in a hurry, and I keep half my attention on the radar map the whole way in. Since the guiding technique reached level 4, the gains have not been limited to my body. The strengthening of the mind has been just as large, and running 2 tasks at once is the most basic thing it buys a person. They say that at genuinely high levels of the technique, a man handles 10 tasks at once without effort, which is a sentence I intend to find out about personally. A standard patrol radar cannot detect life fluctuations, but it will still catch a high-tier starseed creature running at full speed, or a warship out of some alien civilization coming in. The odds of either of those showing up during a first welfare deployment are very small, and nothing happens, and the firmament reaches the target fragment without incident. The fragment is maybe 100 feet long and its volume is far past the firmament's. I do not put the mining vehicle down immediately. I take the ship around it in a full circle first, and only after I have ruled out everything I know how to rule out do I set the shuttle down on the surface. After that, there is nothing left for me to do personally. The onboard system on the Fierce Tiger walks itself out of the hold, finds the point where the radiation reads strongest, and starts cutting. Inside the cabin, I wait with a face that gives away nothing, and a mood underneath it that gives away everything. The mining vehicle was expensive, and I have not regretted it once since it started working. Any other newly awakened captain digging 10 tons of mithril out by hand would spend 5 hours on it at the very least, and the Fierce Tiger is going to be finished inside 40 minutes. It takes 35. The vehicle comes back into the hold, carrying the whole 10 tons. I step into the ruins market as fast as the token allows, pile the mithril in an open corner, and go straight back to the exploration. 2 hours later, the firmament is still working its way slowly through the debris belt, and nothing since the mithril has been worth stopping the ship for. Either the value is too low or the quantity is too small, and usually both. The 8 tons of adamantite ore the instrument called out a while back did tempt me, because raw ore shrinks in refining, but 8 tons would still clear 5 or 6 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. Something is a great deal better than nothing when the alternative is drifting around this belt hoping. I am still turning that over when the mining vehicle's system speaks again, and this time it reports a medium-grade purple-copper radiation field, with a conservative estimate above 500 tons. My eyebrows go up and the hesitation dies on the spot. Purple copper is a low-grade metal and the market pays about 1 strand of Tier 0 floating land origin for every 5 tons of it, which makes it close to worthless by weight. Weight is exactly what is on offer here. 500 tons at a conservative estimate. Mined out completely, clears well over 100 strands. Any other low-tier kindling starship that stumbled onto this field would leave it lying there, because most of them are not carrying a Fierce Tiger at all. Even the ones that are would have to answer the question of how 500 tons of anything gets carried home in a hull that holds 100. I do not have to answer that question. Between the Heavens Market and the mining vehicle in my hold, every ton of that purple copper is coming with me. I move immediately and I run the same routine as before. Circle the fragment, confirm there is nothing waiting on it. Put the vehicle down, let it start. Digging out hundreds of tons is not difficult, and it is also not fast, and I have no intention of sitting in the pilot seat watching it happen. So I pull the mining vehicle exploration instrument off the fierce tiger and take it with me. That lets me survey the surrounding region during the gap and have the next target logged by the time this batch finishes. Losing the instrument does slow the vehicle down somewhat. Weighed against running 2 jobs in parallel for a few hours, the trade is obviously worth taking. Before I leave, I am still not entirely comfortable. I put 3 fire sunflower soldier puppets on that fragment and tell them to hold it, because a mining vehicle at full cut is not a quiet machine, and I would rather not learn what the noise attracts. Several hours later, the firmament slows a few hundred miles out from where the fierce tiger is working, and the instrument reports again. There is no active alert from the shipboard system, which means it is not worth an alert, so I get out of the pilot seat and read it myself. Mercury crystal, about 20 pounds of it. The stuff is worth more per pound than mithril, and 20 pounds is not enough to justify a single deployment cycle of the mining vehicle, so it stays where it is. Right then, the patrol radar behind me starts putting out short, broken alarm tones. I am back at the console faster than I have moved all day, reading the radar map and the projection screen in alternation. It takes me very little time to find the source. Out in the belt 1,000 miles and more away, several hundred fragments that had been sitting motionless since before I was born have all shifted position at essentially the same instant. That is not something a belt does on its own, and the patrol radar would not have called it if it were. My eyes narrow, and I do not enjoy what I am looking at. An energy release that pushes several hundred fragments at once is very obviously not a Tier 0 event. My neck pulls in a little all by itself, because whatever is happening over there, I want no part of going to look at it. As the market master of the heavens market, steady development is the whole of my strategy, and gambling is genuinely not on my list of methods. Then the thought turns over on itself. That energy release is far past Tier 0, and it is also nowhere near Tier 2. This is a welfare deployment, which means the Kindling Bureau does not drop graduating students into regions holding threats a psionic shuttle cannot walk away from. I turn my head and look at the 7 fire sunflower soldier puppets standing straight along the cabin wall. I run the retreat in my head twice, and both times I come out of it intact, so I adjust course and take the firmament straight toward the anomaly. An hour later, the firmament sits with its engines dead behind a large fragment, docked against it and completely dark. The fragment is over 60 feet on every axis, and it hides the shuttle's hull with room to spare. On the far side of it, there is a vacuum pocket held inside the belt, and it is nothing like a star C void zone, because its diameter runs under 6 miles. Sitting exactly at the center of that pocket is a flat fragment close to 3,000 feet across. My guess is that the disturbance the patrol radar caught came from that fragment, that whatever went off there shoved every other rock in the pocket thousands of feet outward, while the source itself did not move at all. The mechanism stopped mattering to me a few minutes ago. What matters is that there is something extraordinary sitting on that flat fragment. I know it because in the 10 minutes I have been watching, 3 separate waves of a winged alien race have come down onto it. Every one of those waves started killing the ones already there the moment it landed. Whatever the thing is, it is rare enough that a species will slaughter its own kind in front of an audience over it. I would have to be a different person not to be curious. I am not moving yet. There are several hundred of those winged creatures on the fragment right now, and more than 10 of them read as Tier 1. What I am waiting on is the shipboard system, which is running a comparison against the public database. Every kindling captain going out into an alien star region downloads the civilization's open data on every star C race ever cataloged. The file is enormous, so even a machine takes a while to walk it. That is largely because the system in this hull is the lowest grade of semi-automatic there is. There is no getting around it either, since the civilization's regulations state plainly that a kindling starship carries a semi-automatic system and nothing better. Nobody argues with the rule once they have read the history. The number of Star Sea civilizations that were overthrown by their own machines and woke up as mechanical civilizations is not a short list. A few minutes and the comparison comes back. The race is called the White-Winged Race. The entry calls them an extremely common void creature of the shattered Star Sea, able to live without a floating continent under them and to move freely through open void. Their advantage is listed as agility and frankly alarming speed. Their weakness is listed as attack power so weak that at equal tier they have serious trouble breaking the energy shield of a kindling starship at all. I sit with that entry on the light screen for a while, and an idea grows in me that I would not describe as cautious. There are 110 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin in my kindling ancestral aperture, and just under 200 Tier 0 life nuclei. Taking the psionic shield from level 7 to level 8 wants 15 strands and 12 life nuclei. 8 to 9 wants 17 and 13. 9 to 10 wants 50 and 40. Adding it up, carrying that shield all the way to Tier 1 costs 82 strands and 65 life nuclei. And what I am holding covers it with a margin. Psionic energy points do not enter the calculation, because those refill in minutes. And a psionic shield at tier 1 does not have its shield value nudged upward. It goes straight to 1,000 points, which means 100 white-winged race attacking together are not breaking it inside any span. Add 10 tier 1 fire sunflower soldier puppets to that and the plan stops looking reckless and starts looking arithmetic. I hesitate for a moment and then stop hesitating. These were the emergency reserves, and if a fragment holding something several hundred aliens are dying over is not the emergency, I would like somebody to describe one to me. 4 confirmations in a row, and the shield component climbs from level 7 to level 10. My reserves take the hit exactly as expected, and I come out of it with 28 strands of tier 0 floating land origin, and a little over 100 life nuclei. That is not a comfortable number to be carrying this far from home. The panel makes up for some of it. Quality still colorless. Consumption, 20 points per second. Defense, 99. Shield value 990 out of 990. Recharge in 20 seconds. Cooldown after an overload, 40 minutes. The next upgrade wants 100 strands and 1600 psionic energy points, and 50 life nuclei. There is one genuine mercy in being stuck with colorless standard components, and this is it. Even past tier 1, the psionic shield keeps taking tier 0 floating land origin and tier 0 life nuclei to upgrade. A white component or anything above it starts demanding materials I could not source in a year. Not that it helps me at this second, since the firmament's reserves are scraped down to the hull and there is no further upgrading anything today. Shield finished, I still do not move on the fragment. Upgrading one component does not make me comfortable, so I shut the shield down entirely, sit there while the psionic energy pool refills to the top, then take the firmament back out along the path I came in on, walking straight at several hundred aliens with a full pool, and no plan is how the mortality statistics get written. From what I saw, the infighting on that fragment is not resolving anytime soon. So I go back for the Fierce Tiger, collect the handful of deposits I logged along the way, and return here when there is half an hour left on the 24-hour window. That is the one moment where I can commit to a strike and still walk away from it cleanly, if it goes badly. If the fight is over by the time I get back and the thing is already gone, then it was never mine and I will not go chasing it. More than 10 hours later, I bring the firmament back to the edge of that small vacuum pocket, with 30 minutes left on the clock. That is as close to on time as I have ever managed anything. The white-winged race on the flat fragment still number over 200, so several fresh waves have clearly come down while I was away. The part I do not enjoy is the tier count. In 10 hours, the tier 1 white-winged race have not thinned out at all. They have gone up, and there are close to 20 of them down there now. 20 tier 1 white-winged race is a number that should stop me, and it buys about 1 second of consideration. Then the firmament comes out of the debris belt with a layer of black psionic shield wrapped over the hull. Engines already running past their rated load. Crosses the vacuum pocket at light speed to hang over the middle of the flat fragment almost before the aliens on it have finished turning their heads. I picked the center on purpose. Every one of those 20 tier 1 creatures has been circling that same patch of ground by unspoken agreement for hours. There is no cleverness required to work out what that means about where the valuable thing is. I ignore the several hundred faces below that have not caught up with events yet, sweep the projection screen across the surface, and listen for the mining vehicle system behind me. Its warning comes in fast. Intense radiation source detected. Energy level reading strong tier 1, with 3 estimates attached. A tier 3 or higher life nucleus at 32%. A residual nuclear fusion reaction core off some dead star sea civilization at 48%. A tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body at 95%. The first 2 I skip without reading twice because anything under 50% is not information, and every captain alive knows it. Then my eyes reach the 3rd line and something in my chest comes off the ground. I did not expect this. Not from a fragment in a first welfare deployment, and not from a debris belt that has spent the last day handing me black copper and refined iron in 300-pound lots. A floating continent origin core fusion body is the seed form of a floating continent origin core, which is the thing that produces floating land origin continuously for as long as it exists. Every graded starseed floating continent has exactly one of them somewhere inside it, which means that if the white-winged race and I had both stayed away, that flat fragment below me would have gone on quietly pulling its neighbors into itself for the next 1,000 years. At the end of it, there would have been a proper starseed floating continent here with a name and coordinates and somebody's flag on it. That is not happening now, and I am not going to pretend to feel bad about it. Even at the lowest grade there is, a tier 1 origin core is something the overwhelming majority of races out here would cross a star region for. It pushes the life level of certain organisms upward. It counts as a mid to high grade starseed exotic item in its own right, and it is the ideal material for building high grade energy cores. For the mechanical civilizations of the starseed, the bidding on one goes somewhere I cannot picture. because a core like this hands an ordinary mechanical being several ranks at once along with an energy supply that effectively never runs out. This particular one is bottom of its class, and would carry a mechanical life form to Tier 3 at the absolute ceiling. To a kindling captain who awakened 3 days ago and is still a Tier 0 ordinary person, the word ceiling does not apply to it at all. Which leaves exactly one thought in my head. An event this unlikely does not get walked away from, and I am going to try for it. From the moment the firmament appeared to the moment I finished sorting all of that out feels like a long while, and takes under 10 seconds. The several hundred white-winged race below have used the same 10 seconds to react, and they raise their weapons in one motion and throw everything they are holding at my hull. The ones that were butchering each other over this fragment a minute ago have unified their front instantly now that an outsider is in the sky. That is either admirable or infuriating depending on which end of it a person is standing on. I put the joystick over twice and slip most of the volley, then tilt the hull, line the nose up on a crevice about 30 feet across in the fragment below. Drop into it before the second volley leaves their hands. Inside the crevice, the firmament goes down fast. Watching the walls slide past tells me this split is new, and almost certainly it was opened by the energy eruption the patrol radar picked up. The eruption itself would have come from the origin core still evolving somewhere under my keel, because the energy inside an unformed core is not stable, and accidental releases like that are entirely ordinary. A low buzzing starts across the surface of the shield and ripples. That is the white-winged race catching up. However well I fly, a shuttle in a narrow rock crevice is never going to outmaneuver several hundred individuals with wings, and I stop pretending otherwise about 4 seconds in. The shield value drops off the top of the panel at a speed I can watch with my eyes. 918, then 850, then 766. My heart rate has stopped being professional about this. Several minutes down and there is a piece of good news. The crowd behind me is thinning out badly, and by the time the walls close in properly, there are only 18 Tier 1 white-winged race still following. Then I work out why, and the good news evaporates. The shield is still draining at a steady rate in the stretches where nothing is hitting me at all. As the firmament closes on the core, the pressure outside the hull climbs. The only reason I have not noticed it in my own body is that the shield is holding all of it off me. The ones that dropped away did not lose interest. They simply could not come any deeper. The panel reads 499, and I have burned half my shield getting this far. I set my teeth, drive my right hand down on the stick, and the firmament accelerates hard enough that the walls turn into a blur. I have to reach the core before the shield does, because with the guiding technique at level 4 and no Tier 1 isolation between me and an energy field pushing toward Tier 2 intensity, arriving late is the same thing as arriving dead. Everything narrows to one sentence, which is that the origin core has to be inside this hull before the shield component overloads. I stop counting the wall strikes. I stop caring about the attacks still coming down the crevice behind me. The descent speed goes up by nearly 3 times, and so does the rate the shield is falling. Somewhere past 10 seconds of that, at the very limit of the firmament's vision, the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body finally comes into view. I push the throttle forward again without deciding to, and to anything watching from outside the shuttle simply becomes a line of light that ends in front of the core. The core sits there throwing off heat that the instruments do not have polite language for. The firmament's cargo hatch opens above it, and a tractor beam comes out of the shuttle and locks onto the fusion body. The moment the beam makes contact, I feel the refusal come back up the line, and it is unmistakable. That is the core's own instinct pushing against a binding force it does not recognize. Because of that refusal, the extraction crawls. I have my eyes welded to the psionic shield readout, and I do not like my own face. A second ago, the shield fell under 200. There is a little over 100 left on it now, and it is going down at something close to 10 points every second. There is nothing I can do about the speed. The firmament is a standard Tier 0 psionic shuttle, and what I am trying to lift is equivalent to a peak Tier 1 entity. That is a pony harnessed to a freight wagon, and neither the psionic shield nor the fire sunflower soldier tree has any connection to the tractor beam that I could use to help. The only reasons I took this bet at all are that the core is incomplete and has not developed the full instinct yet. That a kindling starship converts any Star Sea exotic item brought inside it into a completely harmless shipboard component, regardless of what that item was before it came through the hatch. Another 10 seconds and the fusion body is close enough to the hatch that I can see this working. Then there is a rush of displaced air behind me, several times over, and more than a dozen heavy Tier 1 white-winged race come down the crevice on top of me. They have learned something in the last few minutes. Since their attacks are not going to open this hull anytime soon, they have stopped aiming at the hull and started aiming at the extraction. My eyes go cold, because I am not losing this thing with it. 8 feet from the hatch, and I give the order to block. 10 fiery red figures come out of the cabin in the same instant with tungsten alloy combat shields in their left hands and tungsten alloy spears in their right. They take the incoming volley head on and carry out the order to the letter, The clash of metal comes back up in one continuous run of noise, and not a single attack gets past the line they have made. I let out the breath I have been holding since the tractor beam locked, and then I give them the free attack order. The Fire Sunflower Soldier puppets step forward together with shields up and spears leveled, red light trailing off their bodies. And I will admit it is a genuinely impressive thing to watch from behind. I also know exactly how much of that is decoration. The heat and pressure coming off the fusion body barely register on a puppet body over a short span, which is real. The moment they close with a force nearly twice their number, they are going to lose, and lose quickly. They are level 10, which is entry-level tier 1 and nothing more, and the tungsten alloy they are carrying is respectably hard and almost completely unremarkable on offense. None of that matters. If they hold for 5 seconds, it is enough, and I never for a moment expected them to kill anything. Time does something unpleasant with itself. Each second stretches out while I watch the shield value go 56, then 47, then 37. With the panel about to hit 0, the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body finally comes fully through the hatch and into the firmament's hold. Close the hatch, rotate the hull, and overload the engine. There is no time to look at what the core has turned into as a component, and honestly there is no room in my head for it either. The instant the extraction registers as successful, my mind opens up all the way. Under that much concentration, I break past my own limit without planning to. And for a stretch, I am genuinely running 3 tasks at once. The engine takes hold with a roar, and the firmament becomes an afterimage climbing the rift. The component can wait. The puppets have to wait too, and I am not proud of that, but there is nothing in my mind right now except the mouth of this crevice. With the fusion body no longer throwing out that energy field, the several hundred white-winged race waiting above are not restricted by anything. My shield is essentially gone, which puts the firmament at the weakest defensive state it has been in since my parents paid for it. It would not take Tier 1 attacks to finish me at this point. A few more from the Tier 0 ones would do it. If the 10 puppets had not pinned most of the Tier 1 creatures down there, I would have started seriously considering hiding inside the Heavens Market. I would only ever do that with nothing else left. Hiding in the Ruins Market absolutely guarantees my safety, and it also raises a question I have no answer to. That is whether a kindling starship's automatic return still triggers while I am standing inside the market. If it does not, then I am not saved, I am marooned. Every test I have run over the last day and a half says that entering and leaving the market keys off my own coordinates, and that I come out precisely where I went in. So missing the automatic return would leave me shuttling back and forth between one unnamed star sector and a 300-foot market forever, with no route home to kindling territory at all. I am not willing to accept that, and I do not have to think about why. The monthly market session would keep resources coming, and that was never the problem. The problem is that in a shattered Starseed run entirely on who is stronger, a man with no civilization behind him is dead whatever his personal power looks like. Because nobody standing outside a mid to high civilization with 100,000 years of history has any real idea how deep its reserves go. The firmament runs flat out and the white-winged race still land hits on the hull. The main cannon and the secondary cannons fire backward the whole way up, some of it into the pursuit directly and most of it into the rift walls behind me. That the blast debris fills the crevice and buys me distance. Against those numbers, it is a spoonful out of a river. The psionic shield, already finished, shatters completely, and the attacks start arriving on bare hull. The one thing I got right yesterday was not stopping at the shield. I took the hull armor to level 7 as well, and although level 7 armor is nowhere near a tier 1 shield, it will hold for a while against anything that is not tier 1. I spend 1 second privately congratulating myself that no tier 1 white-winged race is caught up, and on the next second the tail of the firmament bucks hard enough to throw me against the harness. One of them has come up the crevice behind me and put its attack straight through the engine housing. The warning comes up immediately. Hull armor damage 34%. Hull damage 13%. Repair as soon as possible. That number stops my breath for a moment. The white-winged race are weak attackers, and I have proof of it in my own damage log. The dozen or so tier 0 hits earlier came to under 6% on the armor between them. Weak is a statement about tier and nothing else. An attack that crosses a full tier is a different animal. This one took a quarter of my armor off with a single throw, which means 2 or 3 more of them and the hull itself starts taking damage. That does not repair. I tell the shipboard system to run the basic nanobot repair kit, and I do not let my attention off the climb for a heartbeat. The plan does not need to be complicated. If I get out of this rift, I can open the starship up to lightspeed cruise, and no matter how fast a tier 1 white-winged race is, its own body does not reach light speed. Hull armor 36%, hull 14%, nanobot repair kit engaged. Armor recovered 3%. Hull armor 35. Hull 12. The warnings and the repairs trade places with each other over and over while the walls blur past. I have no idea how long that goes on before the firmament shudders again and the tone of the warning changes. Hull severely damaged. Armor at 80% damage, hull at 62. Past 80% hull damage, the starship loses the ability to maneuver. The second strike from that Tier 1 creature has taken my hull past half in one blow. I still feel my face open up into something close to delight, because on the same breath the firmament comes out of the rift and back into open space above the fragment. The engine goes into overload without me thinking about it. Below me, every one of those several hundred white-winged race lets out the same thin hissing noise at once, and throws everything it has, the Tier 1 among them included. If that barrage arrives, my hull goes past 80% and I stop being a pilot and become cargo. The firmament is one step quicker. Before 100-odd attacks close the distance, the shuttle has already turned into a line of light and gone, and it comes back into existence at the far edge of the void region. I do not let go until I am well inside the debris belt again, and when I finally exhale, the fatigue lands on my brain all at once like a dropped weight. Down in that rift, my concentration went past a limit I did not know I could cross, and I did not notice it happening because I could not afford to notice anything. Now that I have relaxed, the bill arrives. I am not alarmed by it. Underneath the exhaustion, there is something that feels a lot like excitement. The general rule is that a kindling captain still at Tier 0 can run 2 tasks at once even with the guiding technique at level 9. That 3 tasks require level 10 or better along with a life level that has actually undergone sublimation. My technique is at level 4. What happened down there was not skill. It was me spending mental energy at a rate I do not produce it, and the lethargy afterward is simply the account settling. It is also not something every kindling citizen below level 10 can do by concentrating hard. The honest figure is closer to 1 in 10,000, because entering the limit-breaking state at all takes the right moment and a particular kind of talent underneath it. The people who master it are rare enough that the civilization has a word for them, and the word is gifted. That is where the excitement comes from. One accident does not mean I have mastered anything. Having done it once, I am confident that practice and repetition will get me the rest of the way. I run the firmament through the belt for a few more minutes until I am certain nothing is following, then set down on a small fragment. By my count, the automatic return is minutes out. While I have the time, I turn and look at the fire sunflower soldier tree, the only special component on the ship. 7 of the 10 points of light on it have gone dark. That means 7 of my fire sunflower soldier puppets are dead at the bottom of that rift, and 3 are still on their feet down there. There is a consolation attached though, because 2 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin have appeared in the firmament stores at some point while I was flying. That means the 7 of them took 2 Tier 1 white-winged race with them before they went. That is the other way a kindling starship earns floating land origin. An origin core produces it continuously, and killing creatures of an alien civilization inside an alien star region produces it as well. Since the puppets are the product of a component mounted on the firmament, anything they kill counts as the ship killing it. 1 Tier 1 white-winged race being worth exactly 1 strand sounds insulting until you remember that the same single strand takes 10,000 Tier 0 kills to earn the other way. While I am still doing that arithmetic, the last 3 points of light go out one after another, and all 10 puppets are gone. I do not feel much about it, and there is no reason to. Dead does not mean gone for a fire sunflower soldier puppet. It means a 24-hour cooldown, and then I summon them again. With that settled, I go back into the cabin, because I have been curious about the converted component since roughly the moment the hatch closed. I walk in and my eyes light up before I reach it. The component itself sits near the hatch and fits comfortably in a palm, which is not the part that matters. The part that matters is the light coming off it, and that light is purple. The kindling starship component that the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body has turned into is purple quality. Atomic fusion nuclear engine, level 0, quality purple. I get about that far before a faint weightlessness arrives and starts building. I know what that is, and I drop the panel and get back into the pilot seat as fast as my legs will do it. I am still working the harness closed when the weightlessness goes all the way over and the universe starts spinning. On the outskirts of Gangwon City at the ultra-long-range Starseed deployment platform, the crowd is a great deal thinner than the ocean of people who stood there the day before. It is still close to 3,000. Almost every face in it is carrying the same expression, and it is the one parents and grandparents wear when the waiting has gone on too long. Awakening a flame seed and taking command of a kindling starship is the one shortcut in this civilization that lifts an ordinary family into the sky in a single step. The road it opens is not smooth. It is laid with thorns from end to end. Every alien star region exploration is danger and opportunity if a person is being polite about it, and a straight bet on living or dying if they are not. Every parent standing on that field knows the odds, and every one of them signed the consent anyway, because this is one of the very few doors an ordinary citizen ever gets. If one child in a generation goes even slightly further along the kindling starship road, the whole family rises with them. A household that produces a captain can turn into a new kindling family whose name lasts for centuries. The humming builds until the pillar of light finally comes back down, and when it clears, there are nearly 100 psionic shuttles standing on ground that was empty a second earlier. The first batch deployed the previous morning was 100. 94 have come back. The Kindling Bureau agents outside the platform start calling students off immediately, because the shuttles still to come need the space, and one by one the halls lift away. Close to 2 hours later, every awakened student Gangwon City sent out this year is home, and the City Bureau publishes the count the same afternoon. 1,032 successful awakenings this year, and every one of those 1,032 deployed on the welfare exploration. 980 of them returned, which puts the number who died out there, or are still out there for reasons nobody will ever learn, at 52. By the civilization standards, that is an unremarkable figure, and the field stays heavy anyway because standing on that platform it does not read as a figure. It reads as 52 people who were on it yesterday. The heaviness does not survive the ride back to the academy. Inside the hovering cars, the first academy students are talking over each other before the doors have closed, and the awakened student exchange group for class 255 is louder still. Yukio out of class 10 opens it by asking what everybody brought home. Juro from class 3 says his luck was not bad, since he came out inside an asteroid belt and pulled 30 tons of uranium ore. Zhang Shou from class 4 says he is envious, and does this sum out loud, because 1 ton of uranium ore trades at 8 strands of tier 0 floating land origin. That makes 30 tons 240 strands, while he personally found refined iron and under 60 tons of it. Sun Ho adds his own envy to the pile and asks anybody to carry him. I scroll the whole thread and then look sideways at the enormous person occupying most of the seat next to me and ask what his harvest actually was. He keeps typing on his communication bracelet and tells me, quietly, 50 tons of gas ore. My eyebrows twitch and the corner of my mouth does something it was not asked to do. Gas ore is a high-tier resource. Strengthening certain high-quality starship components requires it, which keeps its price up permanently, and on the open market 1 ton clears about 10 strands of tier 0 floating land origin. So I ask him how a man sitting on 500 strands finds the energy to be envious of anybody. Sun Ho shuts the light screen, swings his left arm over my shoulders like he is putting a coat on a chair, and laughs and tells me I still do not know him at all, because showing off in front of other people accomplishes nothing and keeping a low profile is the motto of his life. I look down at the arm across me, which is thicker than my thigh. Sun Ho stands 6.5 feet tall and weighs somewhere past 330 pounds, and he is the single most visible object in any room he has ever entered. I cannot get the phrase low profile anywhere near him. He ignores the look I give him and asks what I brought back. 10 tons of mithril, I tell him, and push the number out without hesitating. It is not that I want to hide things from Sun Ho. It is that 600 tons of purple copper cannot be explained by any story I can invent. I understand perfectly well that the heavens market is the one thing about me that can never come out, because what waits on the other side of that is trouble without an end to it. A place that lets a person trade freely with alien civilizations across the whole shattered star sea has a value nobody could put a ceiling on. The atomic fusion nuclear engine stays quiet for the same reason. A purple quality engine component carries serious value on its own, and it would draw exactly the sort of attention I cannot survive yet. Whether it ends up in my own hull or goes out through the black market or the heavens market is a decision I have not made. Although I already know which way I am leaning, because a purple engine would carry me for a very long time. Right then a message lands in the group that takes the temperature out of the car. Deng Chang from class 1 has posted a basic component. Blue quality main cannon, a superconducting laser cannon, and he invites anybody interested to message him privately, with the attribute panel attached underneath. Level 0, quality blue, consumption 20 psionic energy per shot, attack 15, charge 5 seconds with a 10-second buffer. The first upgrade wants 3 strands of tier 0 floating land origin, and 300 psionic energy. The group comes apart. Somebody demands to know if this is real and whether he genuinely pulled a blue main cannon out of a welfare deployment. Somebody else points out that he himself does not own one single white component and is now being asked to look at a blue one. It is not only the students either. The head teacher of class 2, Huang Gukui, posts in the open channel. If Deng Chang is serious about selling, the two of them can talk in person once everyone is back at the academy. Something moves behind my eyes and I keep it off my face. Sun Ho complains in my ear that only an idiot sells a blue quality main cannon instead of keeping it. I shake my head because I do not agree with a word of that. Everybody is running their own plan. A blue main cannon does astonishing damage, and a captain who cannot afford to strengthen it may not come home from his next exploration at all. The price it fetches today would let him upgrade the rest of that psionic shuttle across the board and raise his survival odds on every trip after this one. There are gains and there are losses in it. So long as the man selling has decided the trade is worth making, That is the end of the question. Before Son Ho can answer me, applause starts up behind us. We both turn around. The one clapping is Wang Wan, who besides Son Ho is the other student in class 5, to awaken a white quality flame seed. He gets up out of the back row still smiling and tells the car that it was well said, and that gains and losses is precisely his own view of the matter. Then he wedges himself into the seat beside the two of us and starts talking as though we had been close for years. Various circumstances, he explains, kept us from spending much time together over the past decade. How things are different now, and how only 16 students in our class awakened at all, and after this welfare exploration there are 15. I listen to the whole performance without contributing to it, then quietly stand up and take a different seat. It is obvious that Wang Wan came down this aisle for Son Ho, and that I am scenery. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I could name his intention with my eyes shut. He wants a block inside the class, and as one of the 2 white flame seed awakenings, he would naturally be its head. That raises his standing and his contacts, and turns both into resources later. I have no interest in joining, and I hold nothing against him for trying. A man with no strength behind him and no family behind him, looking for a group to climb with, is doing the most reasonable thing available. The auditorium of Gangwon First Kindling Academy, and nearly 200 students in the seats while the principal talks himself hoarse on the stage. This is the last academy assembly the graduating year will ever attend, and after it we are graduated and scattered. Some of the people in these seats will die on an alien star region exploration within the year. Some will never take a shuttle out again, and will spend their lives on the psionic cultivation platform instead, banking hours until they reach Tier 1, and then living out 2 comfortable centuries. And a few will go up like a dragon finding water, with nothing above them for the rest of their lives. Whatever happens to any of us, none of us are coming back to this room on this afternoon again. My attention is somewhere else for most of it. The moment the assembly breaks, I turn down Son Ho and Wang Wan, and everybody else who wants to make an evening of it, and I go home faster than is polite. The bedroom door shuts and I am in the Heavens Market a second later. The stall area that was bare open ground yesterday is buried under ore. Not only the mithril and the purple copper either, there is adamantite and cold iron and around them, mostly in lots under 10 tons, with the adamantite running closer to 30. Adding the whole pile together with the mithril and the purple copper that started it, I am standing on about 350 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. 350 strands is not a fortune, and it is worth remembering what the baseline looks like. The average take for a shuttle-class kindling starship out of one alien star region exploration is about 100, and none of that count includes the purple component. Which reminds me that I still have not read the thing properly. I summon the firmament in the open ground, because several hours have passed since I got home, and the atomic fusion nuclear engine has been itching at the back of my skull the entire time. Atomic fusion nuclear engine, level 0, quality purple. Its characteristic raises energy supply efficiency by an additional 20%. Consumption 5 per second, energy supply 36 per second, buffer after an overload 30 minutes, and an energy pool that stores 5,000 points. It lists as convertible into a Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body. Upgrading wants 5 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, 500 energy points, and 5 Tier 0 life nuclei. My eyes light up reading it and stay lit. It earns the purple. With no enhancement at all, its numbers already beat a level 7 psionic engine. The part that matters most is the extra characteristic, because that 20% is the sort of thing only high-quality components carry. As the enhancement level climbs, a percentage bonus climbs with it, and I do not want to guess yet what that line looks like at level 10. Then I go back to the convertible column, which is the part most people would skim past. That entry names the original exotic item form of the component. Every colored shipborne component that exists was converted out of a Star Sea exotic item at some point. Once a kindling starship ingests a Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body, it becomes a component. Once it leaves the ship, it becomes a Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body again. Having read all of it, I do not swap out my standard psionic engine for the purple one, and it has nothing to do with the word nuclear. It looks like it has no relationship with psionic energy, and that impression only lasts until it is seated in a slot. Because from that moment, the flame seed converts whatever energy it produces into psionic energy without being asked. I hold off for 3 reasons. The exploration just ended, and the next deployment is a month away, so there is no urgency in it. The firmament is not currently carrying any high-consumption component that the psionic engine cannot feed. And the last reason is the one that decides it, because I am about to open the Heavens Market for the first time. I want to find out what a Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body is worth out there. Some other intelligent species may well pay more for it than I would ever get here. The odds of that are low, and the attempts cost me nothing. With my situation clear in my own head, I start laying out everything that has to happen before the market opens. The first problem is that the ultra-long-range random space gate deployment platform random as its name says. That means I have no idea what species walks through those gates, which means I have to be ready for all of them. That comes down to stocking the shelves in advance with goods out of the kindling human civilization that are cheap here, good quality, and broadly liked. Tungsten alloy combat shields and tungsten alloy spears, which are durable and cost almost nothing at home. Basic gene optimization potion, which this civilization sells to the entire population at a low price, and which works remarkably well on anybody who has never had one. Life nuclei, which are used across every corner of the shattered star sea. None of this planning is being done for the benefit of whichever alien civilizations get lucky with a gate. I intend to mark every one of those items up by 3 times and in some cases 5. The entire business of trading with races from different regions of the star sea rests on one word. The word is difference. An hour of that, and once I am satisfied nothing has been left out, I summon the firmament again and start hauling ore. There are only a few dozen strands left in my hands right now. Stocking shelves takes capital and my capital is currently inadequate, and the ore was always going to be sold anyway. The one genuine headache in it is the 600 tons of purple copper. Moving that quantity takes several trips at minimum, and moving it is the easy half, because selling it without leaving a trail is the part I have no answer for yet. Sold normally, it might pass unnoticed for years, and the moment anybody ever looks into me, it becomes the first thing they find. A student who awakened 2 days earlier came home from his first exploration with 600 tons of purple copper, and the maximum carrying capacity of a psionic shuttle is about 100. There is no story that survives that question, so I have to solve it before I ask it of anyone. The Donggang Kindling Mall again, not far from the Donggang residential district. Top floor, the Eagle Machinery Shop. The young woman behind the counter runs the lot with a polite smile on her face. 10 tons of mithril, 34 of adamantite, 11 of cold iron, 15 of mercury crystal, and 45 of purple copper. Calculated at 70% of market price, that comes out just under 178 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. She offers to round it to 178. I argue the case, and I tell her that 70% is genuinely low, and that most of the other shops in this mall buy at 80. The smile does not move off her mouth, and she does not answer me, and the meaning is not subtle. If 80% is what I want, 80% is somewhere else in the building. There is no negotiating room in that position at all, so I go around it instead. My offer is that she buys at 80, and I spend every strand of it back across her counter before I leave. The Eagle Machinery Shop takes that deal, and I keep my end of it, because all 203 strands go straight back into her shop. 1,000 tungsten alloy combat shields and 1,000 tungsten alloy spears. 1 Star Sea Universal Translator, and 100 vials of basic gene optimization potion. Loading it all into the firmament cost me another 17 strands on top, which she does not round off for me. In the southern suburbs of Gangwon City, there is a very well-known green space called East Mountain Forest Park, and every holiday people come out here in crowds to walk the trails. What most of those people do not know is that behind the park, in a place they will never have reason to see, sits the largest black market in Gangwon City. Among the people who genuinely run this city, the place is an open secret that nobody says out loud. Gangwon City needs somewhere like it. So does every other city, and not only on this continent, because from the White Tower floating continent out to the furthest edge of kindling civilization territory, there is not one habitable floating continent without a black market on it. It works like a shadow. The more brilliant the city standing in the light, the larger the shape it throws behind itself. The reason I know the way in is that my father brought me here once, years ago, and after that I came back alone a few times. Nothing about tonight makes me look like a first-timer. I go in disguised, with the firmament's registered name hidden from outside reading. I move over 500 tons of purple copper in multiple batches through several different shops. In different quarters of the market, the whole sequence runs start to finish without a pause in it. The prices in there are exactly as brutal as their reputation, and 65% of market is the best number anybody offers me. There is nothing to be done about that either. I am a newly awakened kindling captain with no channels of my own, and this loss is the price of not being asked questions. 550 tons of purple copper carries a market value of 110 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. I walk out with 71. I go back to the kindling mall with my teeth together and convert the entire 90 strands in my hand into Tier 0 and Tier 1 life nuclei. Somewhere in the middle of that transaction, I make myself a quiet promise that the ruins market is going to pay this back with interest. 700 Tier 0 life nuclei and 20 Tier 1, 720 pieces in total, go into the firmament. With that, the preparations before opening the ruins market are essentially complete, and I have no further reason to be outside. At home, I tell my parents that the exploration cost me more mentally than I expected, and that I may need to sleep deeply for a day or two. Once they have agreed to leave me alone, I go straight to my bedroom. I do not open the market. I go to sleep instead, because the exhaustion after the limit-breaking state was never an exaggeration, and if there had not been arrangements that could not wait, I would not have stayed upright this long. 20 hours later, I wake up. Not fully recovered, and enormously better than I was. Half an hour inside the Heavens Market gets everything I bought yesterday distributed sensibly across the 10 shops. Once I am satisfied with the arrangement, I walk the length of the street to the ultra-long-range random space gate deployment platform at the far end. Behind me, 10 fire sunflower soldier puppets follow in 2 ranks with red light coming off every one of them, because a full day has passed and the fire sunflower soldier tree has finished its buffering. I reach the platform and tap it, and before I can activate the deployment, a prompt arrives. It has detected that this is the first time this ruins market has been opened in 10,000 years. It is offering me the right to specify the deployment region for one of the space gates myself. Something turns over in my chest, and 7 words come up out of me and fill my whole head, which are the territory of a mechanical race civilization. A day ago, that offer would barely have moved me. It is different now because the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body sitting in my hold is effectively an energy artifact, where a member of the mechanical race is concerned. There is no comparison between what it is worth to them and what it is worth to anybody else. I open my communication bracelet and pull up the Alien Star Region Civilization and Creature Encyclopedia I downloaded long ago, which works without a network, and I find the several mechanical civilizations recorded in it. I pick one set of coordinates, and I activate the platform. The deployment platform starts to shake hard, and 10 points of light come up across its surface. Then all 10 shoot off it, one after another, out through the half circle of shield around the Heavens Market, and away into the silent void until the last streak is gone. Dozens of seconds later, 10 vortex-shaped space entrances open quietly in the entrance area of the market. I put the 10 fire sunflower soldier puppets on those gates, and set the Starsea Universal Translator at the mouth of the Ruins Market. The odds strongly favor completely unrelated species coming through. If any of them are primitive enough that the Starsea common language never reached them, that translator is the only thing standing between me and a room full of gestures. Last of all, I use my authority as Market Master to raise a light screen at the entrance, with the trading rules of the Heavens Market written across it. That screen is formed out of the laws of this secret space itself, which means it does not matter what walks through those gates, or what it uses for eyes. Whatever it is will understand every rule on that screen the moment it looks at it. There are a great many rules on that screen, and the one sitting at the very top of it is 4 words long. Mutual consent, free trade. The second is shorter still, and it says that fighting and conflict are prohibited. Everything after those 2 is loose enough that nobody sensible would object to it. Between them, they hold the basic order of the whole Ruins Market together, while also, entirely by coincidence, protecting my margins. The third rule takes a transaction tax of 10% of the transaction amount on every trade made in here. The fourth says that anybody with a language problem may use the universal translator at the entrance for a fee of 1 tier 0 life nucleus per use. The 100th and last states that this session of the Ruins Market runs for 24 hours, and it reads out the remaining time as 23 hours, 58 minutes, and 27 seconds. Arrangements finished, I walk into my own market like a customer. I do not put on the identity of the market master at all. I go in as a curious boy who got lucky with a space gate and is gawking at everything on the street. It is not long before a faint spatial ripple runs through the entrance. Something with a human body and the head of a bull comes out of one of the gates holding a heavy spiked club, checking every direction at once. As market master, I get the notification the instant it crosses the threshold. I do not turn around. I keep drifting between the shop fronts. It is the first time this place is opened and somebody has to demonstrate how a customer behaves, or every creature that follows will stand in the entrance not knowing what any of this is. It works exactly as intended. The bull-headed creature finishes reading the rules off the light screen, sees a smaller figure wandering shop to shop, as though there is nothing dangerous about it, starts doing the same thing at speed, going through the goods in every storefront it passes. While I watch it out of the side of my eye, I pull the Starsea Civilization and Creature Encyclopedia up on my bracelet, and it comes back quickly. The race is called the Bull-Headed Race, described as a common orcish species of the Shattered Starsea, with the overwhelming majority of its population still living in the tribal primitive era. Its advantage is a culture built on force and individual combat power that the entry calls astonishing. Its weakness is that technological development is essentially absent, and everything the species does rests on its own bodies. My eyebrows go up and something in my chest unclenches, because that entry tells me at least one of my 10 gates came down on a floating continent of some grade or other. That means this session is not going to end with me standing alone on an empty street. It could very easily have. From everything I have read about the Heavens Market, the deployment platform obeys no rules whatsoever when it places gates. There is no requirement that a gate land on inhabited ground, and it is perfectly capable of opening an empty starry sky or in the middle of an uninhabited asteroid belt. Past owners have opened this market and had precisely nobody walk through. The odds of that were highest during the Tier 0 period, when there are only 10 gates to spread across the whole shattered star sea. The Tier 0 bull-headed creature reaches the shop holding the basic gene optimization potion, reads the light screen in the middle of it describing what the potion does. Its whole face opens up into something close to rapture. Then it remembers where it is, and the wariness comes back down over it. It says something out loud, and because I am the master of this place, the sound arrives in my ears in a completely different shop. There is no confusion on my face. What it used is not the language of the kindling human civilization. It is the Star Sea Common Language. A man with more than 20 years of higher education behind him understands that without effort. What it wants to know is simple enough. How can it be sure these gene optimization potions do what the screen says? I think about it for a moment, and then, with a thought, the light screen in the center of that shop rearranges itself into one clean sentence of Star Sea Common Language. It can pay a deposit and test one itself. The bull-headed face tightens as it reads that. As an elite warrior of the Grey Bull tribe, it values its own life a great deal. It is not remotely willing to be the first creature to drink a strange liquid out of a strange shop. It has no way of knowing whether the potion is genuine or whether it is poison. It is still standing there arguing with itself when noise starts up outside the market, and its whole posture changes, because it knows what that noise means. Other creatures have come into this heaven's market. There is no more room in it for hesitation after that. It pulls 50 Tier 0 life nuclei out of somewhere on its body, puts them down with the shop as a deposit, picks up a vial and swallows the whole thing in one motion. The next second it feels a large and gentle heat begin spreading through it, running into every inch of muscle it has. That heat repairs and remakes each cell it passes through, while pain comes up from everywhere at once. 2 minutes later, it opens its eyes, and there is a sharpness in them that it can no longer hide. Its body is carrying strength it did not have, and its physical condition has gone up by close to twice. By the look on its face, it has never felt anything like this in its life. The moment it can speak, it announces that it wants all 99 of the remaining potions. It starts reaching for more life nuclei, of which an elite warrior of the Grey Bull tribe evidently has a great many. Footsteps come up behind it, and a voice in fluent Star Sea Common Language says wait, because it also wants to buy the gene optimization potion. The creature that has walked into the shop has an enormous head held up by 2 tentacles. That head is well over 9/10 of its total body weight, which produces an effect I would describe as memorable. Its intention is not ambiguous. It has not tested the potion at all, and it did not have to, because the state the bull-headed creature is in told it everything. A new line appears on the light screen in the middle of the shop, and it says that each customer may buy 10 at a time. Out on the street, I have just failed to find the big-headed creature anywhere in the Star Sea Civilization and Creature Encyclopedia, which means the kindling human civilization has never cataloged this species at all. That is not what is bothering me. What is bothering me is that if I had known the basic gene optimization potion would move like this, I would have bought a shipload of it instead of 100 vials. 5 times the price. There is nothing in this or any other civilization that turns capital over faster than 5 times the price. So I put the limit of 10 per customer up. The stock is what it is. 100 vials sold to 2 customers in the first hour is worth far less to me than 100 vials spread thin enough to make this market a place people talk about. It goes exactly as I expect. The bull-headed creature and the big-headed one each take their 10 and leave at speed, and neither of them is going home. They are going to fetch their people. Hours pass, and the number of creatures inside the ruins market climbs until there are several hundred of them. Under the eyes of 10 Tier 1 fire sunflower soldier puppets, several hundred beings from a dozen unrelated species behave better than any crowd I have ever stood in. Across the whole session, not one of them starts anything. I did not expect that, and I am not going to complain about it. The stock I wholesaled yesterday is gone in very little time, at a markup of 3 times and up, and the profit on it is clean. I sigh in the middle of my own good mood anyway, because the number underneath the profit tells me the truth about my situation. My starting capital was simply too small. Even at several times the price difference, that entire batch of goods has earned me under 1,000 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. That is not a small sum and is nowhere near a large one. What saves the session is the free stall area, where the trading never stops, and where the transaction tax alone brings in a respectable amount on its own. With over 1,000 strands behind me and rather more confidence than I had this morning, I disguise myself as a trader and go down into the stall area. The figure needs a caveat. Over 1,000 strands is a manner of speaking rather than a count of what is in my hands, since most of what I am holding is life nuclei. It is only at the kindling human civilization exchange rate that the total comes out above 1,000 strands. Floating land origin is a currency for civilizations at intermediate level and above. Everywhere below that, life nuclei are the hard money. The stall area is not large. 30 feet on a side is a joke of a space for several hundred intelligent creatures of the Star Sea, and it looks like one, So I spend 150 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin and take the ruins market from level 0 to level 5 in one motion. In front of several hundred beings who have no idea what is happening to them, the heavens market begins to expand. The 300 feet on a side it is held for 10,000 years opens out to 900. The stall zone goes with it, from a pitiful 30 feet square to 90, which is still crowded and is a different world from what it was. The panel only I can see updates while the walls are still moving. The Heavens Market, Market Master Song Chi, Level 5, 900 feet on a side, 24 vacant shops, one stall area of 90 feet square, and one single-story inn with 30 guest rooms. One Level 0 all-attribute cultivation room where efficiency doubles for psionic energy work, and one Level 0 psionic energy defensive array. One Level 0 ultra-long-range random space gate deployment platform. Extra configuration, none. 0 out of 4. And the trait is danger avoidance. The next upgrade wants 60 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin and a market transaction volume reaching 600 strands. And the remark at the bottom still calls it an inconspicuous little ruins market on the dark side of the shattered star sea, apparently admitting only creatures below Tier 1, with good potential. Reading it, my brow comes down. The extra configuration column did gain 2 slots on the way to level 5, and I will take that. What did not move at all are the all-attribute cultivation room, the deployment platform, and the psionic energy defensive array. All 3 are still sitting at level 0. That tells me plainly that strengthening any of them later will cost resources on top of everything the market itself demands. That is not news I enjoy. The consolation is that a monthly session producing results like this one is a stable business. So long as I bring enough capital and the gates land somewhere with people on the other side, the income does not depend on luck the way an exploration does. Upgrade finished, I go back to walking the stalls, because I still want to steal something. Prices vary enormously between regions of the Shattered Star Sea, and there is every chance that something ordinary in one alien's hands is a scarce resource inside kindling territory. I go up and down the rows shaking my head. A ton of refined iron ore priced at 20 Tier 0 life nuclei, which is double what it costs on any street at home. And a dog would refuse it. 2 tons of mithril ore at 8 Tier 1 life nuclei. That is genuinely under market. And useless to me, because with no channel of my own, I would have to move it through the black market and lose money doing it. 10 minutes and more of that, and then my feet stop in front of a small stall run by one of the bull-headed race. My eyes keep wandering across his goods, and the corner of one of them is locked onto a black sphere about the size of my palm. The panel reads as an exotic item called Refined Gold Raw Stone, quality white. It lists 3 things it can evolve into: a golden moon glaive, a golden rock shield, and golden rock hull armor. The remark calls it a high-quality item among white exotic items. That completely unremarkable black ball is a white exotic item, and when I first saw it, I nearly gave myself away. The bargain I came down here hunting was a batch of goods with a price gap in it. I was not thinking about exotic items at all, because every Starsea exotic item in existence is precious, and takes an enormous span of time to form. That is true of the lowest white grade as much as anything above it. I make a show of going through the rest of his stall and pick the sphere up last, casually, and ask him what it is. The stall owner does not know either, and says so with his hands open. He took it off a warrior of a hostile tribe he killed, and he has never worked out what ore it is. All he can tell me is that it is unbelievably hard, and the best blacksmith his tribe has could not melt it. Then he names his price, 100 Tier 0 life nuclei, and adds that the quality is very high and anything forged out of it would hit like the end of the world. I frown and push back. I do not even know what metal this is, and 100 is far too much, and I offer to cut it in half at 50. Agreeing on the spot would have made him suspicious of the rock in his own stall, and only a few rounds of honest haggling keeps that from happening. We settle at 75 Tier 0 life nuclei, and I walk away from that stall with my face doing nothing at all, and the inside of my chest in bloom. Refined gold raw stone and ordinary refined gold ore are fundamentally the same substance. The difference is that raw stone is the essence of an entire large refined gold vein gathered into one place, which puts its value somewhere that ordinary ore never reaches. The panel says the rest. As a metal attribute exotic item, it converts into hull armor for a kindling starship, and it also converts into weapons and shields a person can carry, which is not a combination that comes up often. Having tasted that once, I work the stalls a great deal harder for the rest of the session, and I never find a second Starsea exotic item. I do buy a few lots of supplies partway through that are genuinely scarce inside kindling territory. Even moving them through the black market later should clear over 100 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, which is better than nothing. The clock keeps going, and when well over half of this session has burned away, my expression is not a pleasant one. I distinctly remember designating one of those 10 gates to open inside the territory of a mechanical civilization recorded in the kindling database. Not one member of the mechanical race has walked through it. the Shattered Star Sea, the Apocalypse Galaxy, the Whalefall Star Domain, and a region of the void so densely cracked that nothing living goes into it on purpose. Inside the territory of the Apocalypse mechanical civilization, this star domain has been a famous forbidden zone for as long as anybody has kept records, and almost nothing lives there. Tens of thousands of years ago, the overlord of the domain was a starry sky behemoth called the long-finned void whale. It went to war with the mechanical legions commanded by the Genesis intelligence of the Apocalypse's civilization. That battle changed the color of the galaxy. No creature alive knows how it ended. All that is known is that the Void Whale Star Domain was renamed the Whalefall Star Domain by the Apocalypse civilization afterward, and that from then on the whole region began filling with spatial cracks. For countless years since, anything that has gone in without caution has been swallowed by those cracks and reduced to dust under the Void Gale. On this day, the silence gets broken by a mechanical fleet. The fleet is not large, only a few dozen warships of assorted sizes packed tight around a single flagship, and moving with obvious care. The flagship is cyan brown from bow to stern, and its armor layer is thick enough to swallow light. It is a steel behemoth over 3,000 feet long and 600 wide. The railgun set into its nose runs close to 300 feet across and does not need to fire to make its point. In the main control room, a silver-armored robot sitting at the primary console asks, in a voice with nothing in it, whether the target can be confirmed to have fled into this star domain. The energy coming off that silver-armored unit is not impressive. It reads at Tier 1 and nothing more, which is negligible next to the units standing behind it at Tier 2 and Tier 3, and every one of them treats it as their superior anyway. One of them answers that according to the last radar sweep before the target's signal vanished. It was indeed inside this domain. It gets no further than that, because an alert cuts across the bridge and reports a fluctuation from an unknown spatial gate at a set of coordinates nobody recognizes. Red light moves through the silver-armored robot's eyes for several seconds, and then it gives the order to go and look. Inside the Heavens Market, there is under 2 hours left on this trading session, and the noise has not dropped by a single degree. It is not only me working the price difference either, because the alien races on the far side of those gates worked out the same trick hours ago. They discovered early that certain goods sold inside the ruins market could be turned around outside for double or better. After that, the higher Tier 1 started shoveling their Tier 0 subordinates through the gates to sell the stuff as fast as they could carry it. Every one of them is making a fortune off it. None of them can stand the clock. To hear them talk, 24 hours is an insult, and wasting 1 second of it is out of the question. I have no complaints about any of this, since that changes hands in here pays me a transaction tax of 10%. Across the last 20-odd hours, with the gene optimization potions added on top, the total value of what I am holding has gone past 3,000 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. Against the 300 strands I scraped together to open this place, that is 10 times my money in a day. The trading is still climbing toward its peak, when one figure walks in through a gate, and the effect is exactly like a stone dropped into a pond, because the entire market goes silent. Several hundred creatures of every shape this corner of the Star Sea produces all turn their heads at once. Every one of them, whatever else it is, has been a carbon-based thing made of flesh and blood. What has just come through that gate is assembled entirely out of metal. Somebody in the crowd who knows what it is says the words mechanical race out loud, and vigilance goes across every face in the street at the same instant. The mechanical race's reputation out here is not small, and it is not good. The labels that can attach to them are words like extreme and unhinged. And the standard policy of most civilizations and races in the Star Sea is to stay respectfully far away from them. A red gaze passes across the rules screen at the entrance. Then the mechanical life form, carrying an aura at the peak of Tier 0, walks into the ruins market proper. It starts sweeping that red light over every alien in the place, one at a time, clearly hunting for something specific. There is a low ripple of unease, and then the crowd accepts it and lets the thing scan the whole market end to end without interference. Its manner is overbearing, and it has not broken one rule on that screen. With the last hours of a trading session burning down, not one creature in here is willing to start something and lose the time. While all of that is happening, in a corner nobody is watching, I quietly stop being a customer and become a stall owner. What I lay out is a few life nuclei with one item set square in the middle of them, and that item is the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body. It does not take long. The mechanical race member finishes its sweep without finding whatever it came for, and then, exactly as I expected, it stops in front of my stall. It points at the fusion body and asks, in a cold synthesized voice with nothing behind it, how this purple quality exotic item trades. I already know what I am going to say. For a purple grade floating continent origin core fusion body, I will only trade for other exotic items. The moment it produces one that satisfies me, it can walk out of here with the core. It does not answer me. It turns around and heads straight back toward the market gate at speed. My head fills up with question marks. I did not think my price was outrageous. For a moment, I genuinely wonder whether the Apocalypse mechanical civilization has had some breakthrough in energy core technology that has left a purple exotic item beneath their notice. I am still muttering about it when the same unit comes back through the gate with more than 20 other Tier 0 mechanical race members walking with it. The new arrivals put the first one in the middle of a formation and keep it there, and their alertness is set very high indeed. My mood goes from overcast to bright in one step, and my face does not change at all while the inside of me celebrates. The larger the escort, the more valuable whatever they are carrying to trade, because nobody guards a cheap thing like that. Whatever's in that box, I want it more than I did a minute ago. I will admit that the thought of simply taking it did cross my mind. As market master, I could invoke the laws of this secret realm, and there is no version of that where I fail. I put the idea down, set that precedent once, and the reputation of the heavens market starts dying on the spot. There is an old line from my last life about how the only way to keep a thing secret is not to do it. The Shattered Star Sea is enormous, and 1 or 2 robberies might never travel. That does not help me, because my entire future rests on this market. I am not going to open it 100 times or 1,000 times. I am going to open it far more than that. Break the rules today over 1 greedy hour, and every year after this gets worse. And what I would lose then is 1,000 times what I could take now. A man with 2 lifetimes behind him does not make a mistake that basic. More than 20 fully armed mechanical race members come up to my stall, and the one at the front produces something purple without any hesitation at all. The thing is shaped like an eyeball. It throws off a hard purple light while being grayish blue itself. The surface of it is packed with countless tiny pupils crowded against each other, which does something unpleasant to the back of my scalp. I look past the presentation and read it. The item is called a multi-eyed race origin eyeball, quality purple, and it can evolve into either a soul-extinguishing eye cannon or a medium-range soul wave detection radar. The note calls it a top item among purple exotic items with extremely powerful energy inside the eyeball. My expression does not move, and I shake my head without a pause in it. This time there is nothing behind the performance either, because I genuinely feel nothing looking at it. The component my floating continent origin core fusion body turned into is also purple, and its numbers are not 1 point behind this eyeball that becomes a main cannon or a patrol radar. If that is the whole offer, then there is no trade here at all. Swapping a purple engine for a purple cannon is not business, it is rearranging furniture. The mechanical race member does not appear surprised by the refusal. It puts the multi-eyed race origin eyeball away and takes a second item out of the extremely finely built mechanical case in its hands. That one is also an exotic item, and the light coming off it is orange. Seeing that orange, something goes through my chest hard enough that I have to work to keep it off my face. Orange quality exotic items carry the suffix glory across the whole Shattered Star Sea, and an orange glory quality exotic item is now sitting on my stall in front of me. Advanced dark matter energy crystal, quality orange, and it evolves into a dark matter energy shield generator. The note calls it a 1 in 10,000 orange item, formed from extremely pure dark matter energy nurtured across tens of thousands of years, with astonishing value. I hold the excitement down and give away nothing, while privately deciding that a component which becomes an orange glory quality shipborne energy shield is leaving this market with me no matter what happens next. All of that takes an instant, and then I open my mouth and tell them it is not enough. Red light flares along the whole formation. Their leader asks whether, since even an orange glory quality exotic item is not enough, it may safely conclude that I have no sincerity about an equal trade. I do not answer that. I look bored instead. The confidence is not a bluff, and it rests on something specific. On its face, the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body is a purple exotic item, and that valuation is a carbon-based valuation. For silicon-based life like the mechanical race, an energy core is not a component, it is a heart. An item that supplies energy without limit at an output far beyond any other core is the kind of thing that drives every member of that race out of whatever they use for a mind. So the same object that a flesh and blood species prices as purple is worth more than an orange item to any one of them, and both sides. The red light in 20-odd sets of eyes flares hotter, and the shape of them changes into something about to move. I set myself, and at the same time I let one thought go through the market. The sky over the whole ruins market changes in a second. An illusory pupil 300 feet across materializes above the street. Every one of those 20-odd mechanical race members feels a freezing gaze lock onto them from overhead, with a death threat inside it that leaves no room for interpretation. Close to 1,000 aliens across the market go rigid. That eye is not looking at any of them, and they break out in cold sweat regardless. I can watch a great many of them quietly congratulate themselves for never having tried anything in here. The sky does not clear until every mechanical unit in that formation has let go of the idea of fighting. Their leader leaves the ruins market a second time, because the price I am asking is above what it is authorized to decide. It comes back before long with another mechanical case in its hands, and it opens the new one right in front of me, and purple light floods a good half of the stall area. There are 6 purple exotic items in that case. Strange expressions move across the faces of the aliens standing near enough to see. Then they remember the eye that filled the sky a few minutes ago, and every stray thought in the crowd goes cold and dies quietly. The leader tells me that besides the advanced dark matter energy crystal, I may also choose one item out of these 6, and that if I still refuse, this transaction ends here. I understand it perfectly. That is the ceiling whoever stands behind this escort is willing to pay, and pushing past it means watching them pack the case and walk. So I stop raising the price and start reading, because if there is no more haggling to be had, then the only decision left is which of those 6 is worth the most to me specifically. 2 of the remaining 5 cannot be converted into shipborne components for a kindling starship at all, and I set those aside immediately along with the multi-eyed race origin eyeball. That leaves 3, an energy gathering stone, a 10,000-year star core fire, and a Snook starship cannon. All 3 convert into either thrusters or shipborne secondary cannons, and all 3 carry serious value. And one of them, the 10,000-year star core fire, is an extremely rare thing that can raise the quality of a flame seed. My hands are resting on the stall and I can feel them shaking. If the orange item put endless joy through me a few minutes ago, then finding a 10,000-year star core fire sitting among these 3 has my soul making a noise. It is the sensation a person gets when the brain has been overstimulated past what it can process, and simply hums. The truth is that I chose the instant I read its attributes. I go through all 3 panels one at a time anyway, slowly, because the last thing I need is for the mechanical race to see how badly I want that fire. The energy gathering stone is purple, evolves into an energy gathering thruster, and its note calls it a mediocre example of a purple exotic item. The 10,000-year star core fire is purple, evolves into either a star core thermal engine or a flame seed upgrade fire source. Its note calls it a fire attribute purple exotic item with a great many uses. The Snook starship cannon is purple, evolves into a Snook star cannon. Its note says it was a starship cannon left behind by the ancient Snook civilization that finally became a purple exotic item. After the baptism of long ages, the other 2 are genuinely excellent, and neither of them moves my decision by a hair. Once I judge the performance has run long enough, I stop dragging it out, take the 10,000-year star core fire together with the advanced dark matter energy crystal, and close the trade. The mechanical race takes the Tier 1 floating continent origin core fusion body, and does not linger in my market for 1 second longer than it has to. Not long after they are gone, with my heart still going, the first trading session of the Heavens market is formally declared over. Every alien in the street looks up at once. Cloud and wind turn over in the false sky above the market, and out of nothing a line assembles itself with the laws of the universe folded into it. What it says is that the star sea is boundless, and may we meet again if fate allows. 10 seconds later, while several hundred creatures are still feeling whatever a thing like that makes them feel, a hard force of expulsion takes hold of every living being left inside. A moment of vertigo, and all of them are set down precisely where they were standing before they walked into a gate. The market empties out and goes quiet, and I have no attention to spare for the atmosphere of the place. I am counting while I summon the firmament. A few minutes later, I step aboard my own ship in a state I would describe as jubilant. On a first count, what I am holding comes to nearly 4,000 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin. Subtracting the small amount I spent upgrading the market earlier, this one trading session has netted me 3,700 strands, plus 3 exotic items: the white refined gold raw stone, the purple 10,000-year star core fire, and the orange advanced dark matter energy crystal. The moment I am inside the ship, the colorless kindling hull begins quietly converting all 3 of them. The refined gold raw stone comes out as golden rock hull armor at level 0, quality white, consumption 3 per second, defense 13. The first upgrade wants 5 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, 500 energy points, and a ton of adamantite. The 10,000-year star core fire comes out as a flame seed upgrade fire source, and the effect line is 1 sentence long. Merged with a colorless quality flame seed, it raises the quality of that flame seed by 1 tier. The note calls it an extremely rare fire source beneficial to the flame seed, with an appeal to low-quality kindling captains that it describes as unimaginable. That is a polite way of describing what my hands are doing. The advanced dark matter energy crystal comes out as a dark matter energy shield generator at level 0, quality orange. Its first characteristic raises shield value by an additional 40%, and its second doubles the shield's defense value outright. Consumption 10 per second, defense 38, shield value 532. Recharge in 30 seconds, an hour of buffering after an overload. The first upgrade wants 10 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, 1,000 energy points, and a ton of mercury crystal. I put both starship components aside, circulate psionic energy, open my kindling ancestral aperture, and draw the wisp of star core fire inside. Everybody knows that a fire attribute exotic item capable of raising the quality of a flame seed is purple at minimum, and that white or blue grade fire sources do nothing for a flame seed whatsoever. This particular wisp is the lowest grade of purple upgrade fire there is, and all it can do is take a colorless flame seed to white. The top purple upgrade fires carry a white flame seed to blue, and those are rarer by a margin I do not want to think about. For where I am standing today, this one is completely sufficient, and I still cannot make myself wait. The instant the 10,000-year star core fire enters the aperture, the flame at the center of that chaotic space flares hard. It has sensed a fire source that pulls at it, and the instinct to advance takes over immediately and drives it to devour and merge as fast as it can. Under that traction, the star core fire drifts slowly toward the center of the aperture. When the two finally touch it, is like throwing an armload of dry wood onto a fire, because the flames come up and leap around like a horse nobody has ever broken. The devouring runs about 10 minutes. When it finishes, the color of the flame seed has finished changing with it, and what was pitch black has gone incandescent white. The moment it completes, my tired mind fills up with something I can only call vitality, and every scrap of energy I burned earlier comes back at once. Under the reinforcement of a white flame seed, my mental strength is noticeably more solid and steady than it was an hour ago. That is the part outsiders miss about the flame seed of the kindling human civilization. It does not only grant psionic energy, it guards and strengthens the mind, and the higher its quality, the stronger both effects are. It is the reason a kindling citizen walks into a fight with a soul attribute Starseed race already holding an advantage. Nobody gave them. Beyond that, raising the flame seed from colorless to white raises the ceiling on the firmament from Tier 1 to Tier 2. The reinforcement limit on every component I hang off her goes from level 19 to level 29. The special component slots move too. A kindling starship bound to a colorless flame seed starts with 2 slots and gains 2 more every 5 levels, and mine now gains 4 every 5 levels. Adding it all up, calling it an across-the-board upgrade is not an exaggeration. With the flame seed handled, which was always the important part, I turned back to the 2 basic components. I stripped the standard hull armor and the psionic shield off the ship without hesitating, seat the new pair in their place, and start reinforcing. The golden rock hull armor can wait. The dark matter energy shield generator is obviously where every resource I own is going, and by good luck I came out of that trading session holding a batch of mercury crystal. That is exactly what it eats. The prompt asks whether I wish to spend 10 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin, 1,000 psionic energy points, and 1 ton of mercury crystal. That takes the dark matter energy shield generator from level 0 to level 1. I confirm it without reading twice. Dozens of seconds later, the component is sitting at level 10. Getting it there took 420 strands of Tier 0 floating land origin and 60 tons of mercury crystal. Converted entirely into floating land origin, the whole bill runs to about 1,020 strands. Past Tier 1, the requirements go somewhere absurd. Priced honestly, Tier 1 floating land origin starts at 400 strands of the Tier 0 kind per unit. I cannot afford that today at any level of enthusiasm, because there are other components waiting and I still have to hold back starting capital for the second Ruins market session in a month. I also simply do not have enough Tier 1 floating land origin in hand. Below Tier 1, the stuff is everywhere, since the origin core of nearly any floating continent in the Shattered Star Sea produces it, and killing creatures in an alien star region produces it too.